Welcome back, everybody, to the Daily Cooking Show, to the Daily Cooking Stream. If you're watching this live, it is currently 5 p.m. EDT. It is April 26th. I always have to check the date. And I see that we have all of my lovely little sous chefs in chat. Hello to Jack. Welcome on in Flixum for the first time. Hello to Trash Can Cat Mom. Hello to Tarina. Hello to Sid Mogu. Hello to Cloud9. Hello to Two Dads Kissing. Welcome on in. I also saw that we had Dosky. Also, hello to Justin Flintoff. It's good to see all of you. Welcome on in, everybody. I'm really excited about today's stream. Also to Lego Batman fan, Resurgence Guild, WW, as always. So we have a lot of the classics, a lot of some of my favorite names. It's good to see all of you. I'm really excited about today's stream. But before we actually begin today, we got to start off on a little bit of an unfortunate note. Everybody, this is important. This does pertain to everybody currently watching. For reasons beyond my control, this Twitch account may or may not be in jeopardy. It may or may not be getting banned just because of some stuff in regards to when the account was actually created. You can type in exclamation mark backup just in case. That's the other backup Twitch account that I have ready to go just in case the worst does actually come through and come into fruition. It's going to be Daramgar TV instead of Daramgar. If that's the case, everybody, everything is going to be okay. Everything is all going to work out. So, enough of that. All of that aside, let's talk about what we will be making today. Let's talk about what we'll be making together, my friends. We will be doing a delicious, crispy, baked risotto. So let's talk about this really quickly. Also, I'm going to quickly turn on the AC, just because it's getting a little toasty in here. So yes, everybody, we're going to be making one of my favorite dishes, except we're also going to be baking it and stuffing it with cheese and making it really, really crispy. So what is risotto? Risotto is essentially a dish of sauteed stirred rice that is then filled with a bunch of Parmesan. It has typically shallots in it, it has a little bit of wine and some chicken stock. Risotto is really, really delicious. However, I find that risotto oftentimes kind of sucks as a food to be eaten at home. Specifically, it's only good for the first few minutes after it's made. If you have a dinner party, if you want to impress somebody, if you're cooking for somebody, making them a risotto is one of the easiest ways to really truly impress somebody. However, when it actually comes to it being home cooking, it's not necessarily the most practical. By doing this modification of a risotto, we make a risotto and we're almost doing like this arancini style baked risotto. So we get this creamy, delicious, cheesy rice. We mix in some cream, we mix in some Parmesan, we mix in some mozzarella, and we top it off with breadcrumbs, and we're gonna bake it nice and crispy. The beauty of doing a risotto in that way is that it reheats so much easier than a basic risotto. Okay, so if you by any chance happen to have leftover risotto, this is a really good way to use it up. And then we'll also be doing some sauteed broccoli, rabe, and mushrooms. So everybody, for the risotto today, it's going to start with a short to medium grain rice. And this is really important. I need to make sure that everybody's listening for this. You can't do a risotto with a long grain rice. You can't do it with a jasmine. You can't do it with a basmati. Traditionally, for an Italian risotto, the kinds of rices that you would use would be carnaroli rice. There is another one that starts with a D, or you would use arborio rice. You can also use sushi rice and shorter medium grain rices as well for risotto. A lot of Italians, especially, let me rephrase this, not Italians. I feel like a lot of people on Reddit would say, actually, you can only use arborio and carnaroli for risotto. That is just not true. Any short to medium grain rice can still give you the risotto texture that you're looking for at the end of the day. A risotto does not just have to be done with an arborio or carnaroli rice. If those are not the kinds that you have at home, I have this lovely Japanese sushi rice, and so that's what I'm going to be using for today. Okay, so do not let others tell you what or what not to do. The reason why you can't use long grain rice for risotto is because it turns really, really mushy and really sticky instead of very velvety and very creamy. Okay, so everybody, we're going to be using some lovely sushi rice. Again, you can use arborio or carnaroli rice or any kind of short grain rice that you would desire. Okie dokie, we're going to be doing this risotto with a little bit of red wine. Again, traditionally with a risotto, you would do it with a white wine. I don't have white wine, I just have a red wine. So I'm going to be using red wine instead. Additionally, you would use, traditionally everybody, you would use shallots. Guess what? I'm gonna be replacing the shallots for some red onions. Why? Because I already had red onions at home. It's still gonna be delicious. It's still going to melt and it's gonna make the risotto nice and aromatic and delicious. And everybody, we're also going to be doing our own homemade chicken stock. And as always, we're gonna be starting off with a whole chicken. We're gonna be breaking it down. We're gonna be chopping it up and we're gonna be making a beautiful, delicious homemade chicken stock. One of the best ways to level up your home cooking, and I hate saying the word level up, but one of the ways that you could really improve your home cooking, everybody, is to get into the habit of making homemade chicken stocks. Homemade chicken stocks can be so easy. They can be so convenient. They don't have to be complicated. Let me show you how easy it is to do it from a whole chicken. Can I please get a yes, chef, from everybody watching? Please and thank you. And I do mean it, from everybody. Okie dokie. So, and then everybody, as a nice little side dish, we have some broccoli rabe. I ended up finding some in the store today. So we're going to be blanching it and we're going to be sauteing it down with some mushrooms and it's going to be really, really delicious. I love broccoli rabe. My store had it again today and I was really excited about it because this is one of my favorite greens. It has so much flavor, it has so much depth, and we'll talk about the way that we need to cook this bad boy. Okay. And so, also, I really want to talk about, why am I doing this dish to begin with? Where did I even come up with the inspiration for this? Everybody, one of the most important parts about home cooking is to first use up what you have in the fridge. And specifically, I had half a block of mozzarella sitting in my fridge, and then I also had some heavy cream. And this risotto is going to need both. Typically, risotto doesn't use either of these things, but because this is a baked risotto, it needs the extra cream and it needs this extra cheese. So, I looked in my fridge, I saw that I had these two ingredients and I wanted to use them up and I used them as inspiration. Also, hello to Dakota, welcome on in. So we're gonna be using both of these up. And of course, everybody, we have a nice little block of Parmesan because you cannot have a risotto without Parmesan. This is one of the essential components. It's gonna be in the breadcrumb topping. It's going to be mixed and folded into the risotto itself. And so we have a lot of cooking that we need to get done. We gotta make a homemade chicken stock. We have to saute some red onions. We have to saute the rice. We have to gently douse in some red wine. We have to pour in the chicken stock, grate the cheese, mix it all up, make a breadcrumb topping, bake it, and then also do the sauteed broccoli rabe and mushrooms. It sounds like a lot, but is everybody ready to get started? I'm gonna walk you through everything, every single step of the way. We'll talk about what we're doing and why we're doing it. I want to hear a nice yes, chef, from everybody watching, please and thank you. And I will have a little sip of my tea. Also, everybody, if you would like to support the cooking show, if you would like to support what we do here, please check out my Patreon. You can type in !Patreon. I'm trying to be able to do this full time one day, and so any and all support there is really appreciated. It's a really nice way of getting some support directly to me. Also, I don't think that's enough yes chefs, so I need everybody to pour it on in. So everybody, we're going to be starting off today by doing a homemade chicken stock. And as always, my favorite way to do stocks at home is inside of a pressure cooker, and let me talk to you why. It just simply saves time. It makes things so much more efficient. Now, we're not going to be doing anything crazy, like we're not going to roast the bones, we're not going to blanch it and exchange the water. All of those do yield very delicious stocks. But what I want to teach you is an incredibly accessible way of making a homemade chicken stock. Because let me tell you something, my friends. Boxed chicken stock is basically inedible. It has that canned box flavor. It is completely watery. It has absolutely no gelatin, and you're basically buying a whole bunch of water weight. Making your own homemade chicken stocks is an absolute must. And if you don't want to do that, I'd recommend Better Than Bouillon or a grated chicken, a powdered chicken bouillon. But everybody, the easiest way to get into the habit of making homemade stocks is to use a pressure cooker. A pressure cooker is able to cook things a lot hotter, it's able to cook things a lot faster, and thus we're able to get a chicken stock done in 50 minutes instead of 3 hours of cooking. Chef, sometimes I just pour 2 electric kettlefuls on my bone and then drain. Great, that seems to do a good job. But really the extended boiling for the initial blanching stage is good to get rid of all that scum. I think that might not be hot enough to, But yes, so everybody, we're gonna be starting off with a couple of quarts of water. The amount of water doesn't really matter. We just wanna make sure that everything is submerged. And so let's talk about the beauty of making a homemade chicken stock. One of the nicest things that you can do with a homemade chicken stock is to use up existing vegetable scraps. So this is actually going to be a chicken mushroom stock, everybody. I have these lovely mushroom stems, which I had sitting in my freezer, and so we'll be also throwing these into the pot. Also, a nameless. This would not be a paella if we added seafood to it. Paella is a really, really complicated dish. It uses a special pan. It uses a different type of rice. It uses bomba rice. And the cooking method is very, very different. So this would not be anywhere close to a paella, I'm afraid. A paella is all about developing a really, really crispy bottom. Okay, so my friends, we have all of these lovely mushroom stems, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and drop it into the water. Now, do you have to use mushroom stems? No. The reason why I'm using mushroom stems is because I already have them at home. Mushroom stems make for an amazing broth. Additionally, I have all of these fresh mushrooms that I was going to originally use for today, and so instead of just throwing out or freezing the stems, let's just go ahead and get all of these delicious, meaty mushroom stems into this chicken stock as well, my friends. Okay, and so the way that I like to do it, we're gonna hold the mushroom, and then we're just going to wiggle around the stem, and it easily pops off. You don't need to use a knife, you don't need to use anything crazy like that. We're just going to take it, and we're going to just wiggle it around a little bit until it pops out. Okay, just put a little bit of pressure on all sides, put a little bit of pressure, and the stem should, with a little bit of force, just be able to gently pop out, and we keep all of that lovely mushroom flesh on the inside. Okay, and the reason why we don't necessarily always want to eat mushroom stems, although you can, is just because they tend to be a little bit drier in texture. They tend to be a little bit woodier, but they still have plenty of delicious flavor. These are mushrooms that I thoroughly washed. Okay, so they're nice and clean, and they're going to go ahead and give our stock an extra dimension of flavor. So again, make the stock with what you have. If you have beef bones, if you have chicken bones, okay, if you have just mushrooms, you can just make a mushroom stock as well. And a pressure cooker does a really, really easy job of it. So all of my mushroom stems have now been officially extracted. I'm going to go ahead and just dump this into my pot once more. Beautiful. And I'm gonna go ahead and put these mushrooms behind me because we're not going to need them for a while. Is everybody listening? I wanna hear a nice yes, chef, please, and thank you. I have this old yellow onion just sitting in my fridge from just a couple of days ago, and we're also going to be adding this into the stock. Once again, everybody, we're intentionally not chopping it up because we're not looking to get pieces of this inside of the stock. We just wanted to impart its delicious allium-y flavor. So we're just peeling off the top couple layers of skin. We're keeping the root of the onion mostly intact. I'm just going to get all of the dirt of it off. Nice and easy, just like this. Okay, but we're keeping the rest of the root on, okay? Because I don't want this onion to fall apart in the cooking process. And we're going to go ahead and just add that on into the stock. You can add in carrots, you can add in celery, you can add in, I've been doing like pepper scraps as well. All of those are really, really good additions. And this is what's going to give our stock really delicious aroma, really delicious flavor. Okay, next, let's do an added element of herbaceousness. Let's go ahead and add in a couple of dried bay leaves directly inside. Again, I'm just using these because they have them. These are really traditional to use, especially in a lot of European style stocks. Okay, so a couple of dried bay leaves, just gonna go directly into the pot as well. Right, just make it nice and aromatic, nice and fragrant, nice and delicious. Okay, and now let's think, is there any other vegetable scraps that I could use? The only vegetables that I would avoid using would be cruciferous vegetables. So no cabbage, no broccoli, no cauliflower scraps, because those can start to make your stock a little bit smelly, especially with the extended cook time. But all of these scraps, the onions, especially if you added carrot or celery, they would just make the whole thing really nice and delicious. So with that now all out of the way, I believe that we can begin the process of breaking down a whole chicken to then use inside of the stock. Nice, you know how to cook? Dr. Finger, I don't just know how to cook. This is the best cooking show on Twitch. And as always, if anybody has any cooking questions whatsoever, please feel free to ask me. I want to get everybody in the habit of making their own homemade chicken stocks. Okay? So, we're going to be breaking down a whole chicken, and we'll talk about why we're using a whole chicken to begin with. Okay? In just a moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and glove on up just to make my life and my cleanup a little easier later on. Okay. Glove on up, and let's get the next glove on. Okie dokie. So everybody, I have here a beautiful whole chicken. It's actually kind of massive. This whole chicken doesn't even like fit in my camera frame. I might want to just, I don't know, move this out a little bit just so that we could properly see this thing. So what are the advantages of buying a whole chicken to begin with, and why do I want to get all of you into the habit of buying a whole chicken? So first and foremost, a whole chicken is oftentimes, not always, you just have to check the price and really think about it. Oftentimes a whole chicken is cheaper than buying individually cut chicken parts. Okay, and then the second added benefit is you get the byproduct. You get the bones, my friends, and the bones is from which we will make that lovely, glorious chicken stock. Okay, and so this is something that I want to get all of you into the habit of doing. This is a massive chicken. It's going to yield a good amount of stock, but we're not going to be using any of the meat for it today. As you all may notice, I have this chicken sitting on a sheet tray on a wire rack because when I bought it, I put it like this and I put it in my fridge to let it air dry. Oftentimes, when you buy meat from the supermarket, it's super, super wet, especially because they're oftentimes previously frozen, or they've been sitting in the case for a few days. By letting it air dry, just like this, overnight, a day in advance, or maybe just a few hours, it's going to be a lot easier to manage, my friends. It's not going to be sopping wet all over your cutting board. It's going to be a lot more neat and a lot more organized to work with. So, can I please get a yes, chef? I want all of you to start air drying your meat when you buy it. You buy it, sheet tray, or even just a plate. It doesn't need to be this fancy setup that I have here. It can just be a plate in the fridge. Let it air dry for at least a few hours as soon as you buy it. Okay, it is my favorite thing to do. Okie dokie. So let us begin breaking down this whole chicken. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab this bad boy. And again, this is not an intimidating process. All that you're going to need is just a sharp knife. And this is something that everybody, and I truly mean everybody, is able to do at home. What's his name from Ratatouille? Gustavo? Anybody can cook. That was his motto or something. Okay? But I do truly mean it. Anybody can do this and everybody should be doing it. All that you need is a sharp knife, and I'm going to teach you how to think about a whole chicken and how to properly break it down. The first thing that I'm going to do, though, is I am actually going to be throwing away this chicken fat. I don't render out the chicken fat, and if we leave it inside, it might end up making my chicken stock a little too oily. Some chicken fat is very nice, some chicken fat is really, really pleasant, but this is not going to be needed for today. So they'll be on this inner part of the thigh, so we just snip them off. Okay, everybody, let us talk about the anatomy of a chicken. 2 breasts, 2 legs, 2 wings. The wings I don't typically cook with, the wings I put into my stocks, but let me show you how to take out the chicken wings. So, really, really simple, everybody. We're flipping it breast side down, backbone up. Okay, and now we have the chicken, and this is essentially the shoulder. Think about your own anatomy. This is the shoulder of the chicken, my friends, and all that we're going to do is we're going to make a little incision where the chicken wing meets the rest of the chicken. Okay, just like that, and then we expose the joint. And now that we expose the joint, we're never cutting through bones. All we're doing is we're slicing in between the joint, and guess what? That is one beautiful chicken wing taken off of the bird. Just like that, nice and easy. Let's do the same thing with this one. We make a little incision exactly where it meets it, okay? And then we just split it through the joint, okay? We've exposed the joint now, and now all we have to do, everybody, is we just slice it off. That is just how easy it is to get the chicken wings off. Can you do that? I want to hear a yes, chef. I want to hear yes, chef from everybody that thinks they can do that, because you can do that. With a nice sharp knife that easily gets through the skin, you're never cutting through bone. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take each of these chicken wings and put them inside, because again, I don't really cook with my chicken wings besides 4 stocks. Okay, let's go ahead and do the rest of Mr. Chicken here. Now, we have to go ahead and we have to get rid of the legs now, okay? I tried doing this a week ago and your dad ended up breaking the knife, Cloud9. That's a little unfortunate. But with my techniques, with my methods, I promise you we're never cutting through bone. There's nothing to break here. Okay, you're only gonna break a knife by cutting it through bone directly. We're never doing that. Okie dokie. So, everybody, we have a chicken here. We have 2 legs. Let's go ahead and get rid of the legs. So all that we have to do, this is the skin where the leg is attached to the breast. Okay? And all we're gonna do is we're gonna make a nice little incision, just like that, nice and easy. Okay? So that we're just exposing the leg underneath. Just like that. And the leg already looks like it wants to come off. It is just naturally separating. Okay? So all that we really need to do at this stage, and I'm actually just going to go ahead and get rid of this bowl because I'm going to need it later. All that we need to do, my friends, is we just pop it out of the socket. We pop out the joint out of the socket, and now that we've done so, we can easily slice off this chicken leg. Thigh and leg and all. Okay? So just slice it off, slice it off, slice it off. Okay? All the way through, and that, my friends, is one beautiful chicken leg. A rolling pin and a knife? Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that, Cloud9. So guys, take a look. That chicken leg just easily came off because again, we're never going through bone for this stage. We're never going through bone for this. We're always just cutting in between the joints. Okay, so let's do this again. Let's just go ahead and make a little incision. Let's separate the leg. And this is why you need a sharp knife, okay? You need a sharp knife so that it easily just goes through the skin. Okay, and now that we're all the way down here, we just continue making an incision all the way through the skin. And then we just take it and we flip it and we pop out the leg, okay? Nice and easy. It's popped out. And so all that we gotta do now is we just gotta shave it off. Just shave it off, and get out that leg from the rest of the carcass. Just like that, my friends. We now have 2 chicken legs, beautifully done ourselves, okay, at that. We did it entirely ourselves. You made it for the date? Ooh, Tarina, how did the baked pasta go? How'd it go over? I'm glad that it was good. Okay, and so now, the last thing that we have to do, this is the most technical part. This is the most precise part. So, everybody, I need you all to tap in for this one. Okay? This is the one that I need all of your attention for. So the legs, the wings, those were super easy. This is where it starts to get technical. We need to think about the anatomy of the chicken breast here. So we have 2 breasts, and we have this bone separating the 2 breasts, running right down the middle. All that we need to do right now, we're making an incision. We're not cutting through all the way. We're gonna be basically peeling the breast, and under the breast lies the chicken tender. We're gonna be essentially peeling it off of the carcass. Okay, so here's what we do. We start off with a really gentle incision, and we're just going ahead and we're going all the way through to the end of the skin, my friends. Okay, so we go through all the way to the skin end. Okay, just like that, lovely. And then we're going to flip it around. We're going to just follow the shape of the breast and make almost an L-shaped cut. L, just like this, okay? Here is the long line and here's the short line. And now that we've made the L-shaped cut, let's go ahead and just put my knife down ever so slightly. And now we can just begin basically peeling the breast and the tender off of the carcass. Because we're not cutting now, my friends. All we're really doing is just peeling it off using our thumb. Okay, and by using our thumb, by using our hand here, we're able to get as much of the meat as possible. Because take a look at that, that is clean bone. We are not wasting any meat now. Clean bone all the way through. We're separating it, okay? We're going all the way through, all the way through, all the way through. Look at that. Beautiful. That is the breast now coming off the carcass. Also, Jesselyn, thank you so much for the sub. Thank you. So, take a look, my friends. The breast is easily peeling off, and we're going to be peeling it off with our hands as far as it can physically go, and then we'll just be snipping it off with our knife at the very end. Okay? So we've peeled it. Okay? We are now at its final, position here. It's basically ready to come off, and we're keeping the tender intact as much as possible. And so all that I'm going to do here is now just slice off this breast. Look at this magnificent breast. Look at this thing. Beautiful, whole, skin completely intact, and the chicken tender is still attached to the breast. So Tarina, the chicken tender lies under the chicken breast, and this is of course, the most tender part of the chicken. So take a look. Guys, this might be the best chicken breast I've ever done. Look at that. That might be the best butchery I've ever done. All you need is a sharp knife. All you need is a sharp knife and a little bit of technique, guys. But anybody can do it. You're never going through bone. It is so available, okay? Why is the tender the cheapest meat sometimes? Tarina, I have no clue. I would not be able to tell you that. Okay, seems like they did not fully drain this of the blood. That's okay. This can just always easily be cleaned up. We'll do that later. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and do the same thing with the other breast, except it's a little tricky now because it's a little bit more wobbly, but we'll get it done. We make an incision all the way through to that skin, okay? And we flip it around. Okay? We'll flip it around and we make an incision all the way through. And then we make that L-shaped cut that I talked about before. And now, my friends, we will once again go in here and just begin peeling the meat off. We're peeling it off. We're using the base, okay, of the breast, of the tender itself, and we're just gently separating all of it. Chef, why is the chicken oyster the softest one? So Jack, that's a good question. We have to talk about why meat is soft to begin with. Meat is soft to begin with because, first of all, a lack of connective tissue. typically you have like shorter and thinner muscle fibers. And so that is why the chicken oyster might just be the most tender, part of the chicken. So I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly why. I could just tell you in theory. Also, Hannah's Cat Cafe, welcome on in. So we're almost done, my friends. Take a look, take a look. The breast is just naturally peeling off of the rest of the carcass. We're not even using a knife for this stage. We're just basically peeling it off with our thumbs, with our hands, as much as it will reasonably go. And that is the beauty of doing the chicken breasts. It's a little bit technical, but we're not even using our knives for this. So just keep going, keep peeling it off, keep peeling it off. And now we are left with this magnificent chicken breast. And let's just go ahead and slice him off of the carcass as well. Look at that. Beautiful. That is another chicken breast. Perfectly done, guys. This time the chicken tender is separating a little bit, but that's okay. And now, take a look at this. We have gotten every single reasonable scrap of meat off of the chicken carcass, and we did it ourselves. How easy was that? Wasn't that easy? Can I please get a yes, chef, from everybody watching? Okay, so all that we got to do now, we got to go ahead and we got to take the neck off because I want this to easily fit inside of my pressure cooker pot. So you're just going to make an incision on the skin end, and then you're just going to essentially twist it off. Also, it seems like we do have a generous amount of chicken fat here. I'm just going to rip that off and throw that away because we don't want that inside of the chicken stock. Also, Zubu, welcome on in. Hello, hello. Okay, again, we don't need all of this chicken fat. It'll make my chicken stock a little too oily. It'll make it a little too greasy for today. So I think I'm just gonna take the skin off of the chicken neck altogether. I'm gonna throw the chicken neck into my stock pot. And now, one last step that I really like to do just to make things fit in a little bit easier is I just like to separate my back carcass into two little pieces. Okay, just like that, rip that in half. And let's also just go ahead and throw that all into the pot. 1, okay, and 2. And just like that, my friends, guess what? We have all of my components for a delicious homemade chicken stock, and it wasn't that difficult. So let's talk about this really quickly. What is even in here to begin with? Everybody, we have my leftover mushroom stems, my previously frozen mushroom stems and my new ones. I have an onion in there, I have some bay leaves, and then of course I have my chicken bones. I want everybody to get into the habit of making homemade chicken stocks. Homemade chicken stocks are so flavorful and they can be so simple, especially if we're using a pressure cooker. That's why I keep showing you chicken stocks in a pressure cooker. This is the best solution to the modern home. I'm not gonna tell you roast your bones for more flavor. I'm not gonna tell you blanch your bones, strain it out, and then skim off the scum. Guys, to make a chicken stock at home, this is exactly what you gotta do. It's so easy, it's so convenient, okay? This is the best way to do it at a home setting, especially if you have a job. Okay, next thing that I wanna talk about is the seasoning, or the lack thereof. Everybody, a chicken stock is something that you use throughout the week. A chicken stock is something that you use in sauces, in soups, and different dishes. I intentionally do not salt my chicken stocks, and I don't want you to salt your chicken stocks. So, chat, do we salt our chicken stocks? I want to hear a nice no, chat, please and thank you. We do not salt the chicken stock so that if we were to reduce the volume, let's say we're making a sauce out of it, it doesn't become accidentally too salty. We will only use salt as needed. Okay, so once again, bay leaves, chicken bones, mushroom stems, and onion. You can use carrots, you can use celery, but we intentionally do not salt it because a stock is supposed to be bland. A chicken stock is supposed to be a blank slate. Because then that way, when you don't season it, you can use it in a variety of different cuisines, different cultures, different dishes, different applications. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's throw this onto my pressure cooker. Everybody, I'm gonna be doing mine for 50 minutes on high pressure, okay? You just wanna make sure that all of your chicken pieces are nicely covered. High pressure, 50 minutes, set it on, make it happen. Okay, and almost done. Just setting my dial, 50 minutes, and we'll let it go, and we'll let it do its thing. So, everybody, the entire breakdown of the chicken is all finished. We're not gonna be using any of the chicken pieces for today. The chicken pieces, I will probably just use them next stream. Once again, everybody, we stream every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So I'm just going to go ahead and move these around, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this back into the fridge, out of sight and out of mind. Does anybody have any cooking questions for me in the meantime? And also what I'm going to do really quickly, everybody, because again, because of the fact that we are cooking at home, because of the fact that we're in a home setting, we need to clean as we cook. One of the most important things that I will teach all of you again and again is make sure if you have a dishwasher, your dishwasher is empty. If you have, well, you probably have a sink, but you want to make sure that your sink is clean and empty before you cook. If it's half full and then you continue cooking, you'll get like a load and a half full of dishes and it's going to be the worst and you're never going to want to cook again. Clean before you cook. That is one of the most important things that I can teach all of you again and again and again and again. So I'm going to just go ahead and quickly transfer over my cutting board into the dishwasher. Just throw that in. Also, by the way, apparently most of you did not know this. If you have a dishwasher, the dishwasher has a filter. You need to clean that thing every few months. I started some controversy on Twitter about this because some people did not know that they had to do that. Okay. How long do you keep your stocks before they go bad? Excellent question, Pain Pill. Here's my advice. Unless you know that you're going to be using it in the next 3 to 4 days, typically I want to say 5 days is kind of like the peak of it, I would just freeze it. Stocks hold up so well in the freezer. Do it in an ice cube tray. Okay, just freeze it in jars or something. I really, really encourage you just to freeze it instead and just to have that supply. When we make fatty meats like spare ribs, how do we separate the fat from the stock when we go to make a sauce? So really good question, Death Owl. I'm going to actually show you my favorite device to do such a thing. I just really quickly want to wash off my knife because we're going to be using it for a bunch of other things today. Okay, so just give me 1 second. I'm going to wash up my knife and then I will show you exactly what I do for that. So I have a very, very fun tool in mind. So everybody, again, I'm washing off my knife because, hey, this is my chef's knife. I'm not going to leave it dirty. I'm not going to just leave it hanging around. Okay, we got to clean as we go. Clean as you go, and your kitchen will thank you. And you will thank yourself later on. Washing up my knife, just scrubbing it off, getting all the chicken and stuff off of it. Okay, and then I'm also just going to quickly wash up my hands after I'm done with that. There you go. My knife is looking nice and shiny. Nice and clean. So again, everybody, thank you so much for the patience. Also, hello to, I believe that's Gay Man. Welcome on in. But yes, so if you don't know, by the way, your dishwasher has a filter. Typically, more modern models tend to have them. Not all models, but a lot of them tend to have them. So, you know, get it together, guys. Okay, so really, really quickly, I'm just going to set up my cutting board again for the next thing that we need to do. And I'm going to show you my favorite tool to get rid of fat in a stock or something else, okay? So let me show you, because guess what? Modern problems have modern solutions, okay? And my new cutting board is all set up. I'm just going to wash my hands just in case, just to be nice and thorough. Get all the chicken off my hands, off of my paws, get it out of here, because we have no desire for it at all. Okie dokie. Get all the soap off of me. There we go. I need to get a sink camera one of these days. One of these days it will happen. Probably not in this place, but I will be moving in a few months, and I think that's where I want to be doing it. Okay. So, my hands are nicely dried. I'm also going to quickly dry off my knife. And so let's talk about this really quickly. So when you make a chicken stock, there is a really, really annoying thing that happens. Whenever you make a stew, whenever you make a sauce, whenever you make a soup, what happens is, especially, I mean, if you cook with like a fatty piece of meat, like a short rib, like a chuck, you get a lot of fat that floats to the top. So I have a question for you guys. How many times have you made a stock at home? How many times have you made a soup at home? Have you ever made a stew at home where it was really delicious, but there was just too much fat on top? How often has that happened to all of you? Okay? How often has that happened to all of you? Because it's happened to me, especially with short ribs, especially with chuck. It's, you know, a constant problem in the kitchen, but we can fix it, and I'll talk about how. Never that's the flavor, but Jack, it can be flavorful, but sometimes it's too much. So let me talk to you all about something. There is a really, really lovely tool that I use sometimes at home, but I don't necessarily use it all the time. Let me see if I can actually find it for us for today. I actually have no idea where it could have possibly gone. Wasn't it inside of this cabinet? wasn't it inside of here? I wasn't expecting to use it today, so it's not like I had it out and ready to go or anything. Okay, I'm not gonna show it to you, instead I'll just talk about it. So the first thing that you can use, guys, is a little something called a gravy separator or a fat separator. This is basically a tool that has like a little hole on the bottom. And what it does is it lets you open up the hole on the bottom and it pours out the liquid because the fat naturally rises to the top. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do. You can just take advantage of the fact that fat rises to the top and it's basically trickling the liquid down, and then all the fat on top you can discard or save it for something else later on. Another nice thing that you can do actually is this. So this is a little bit more of a chefy thing. I see this sometimes in restaurants where they take a ladle and they fill it with ice. And the reason why you take a ladle and you fill it with ice, and then you take it and you drag it over a pot of the hot fat or like the hot stew, and the fat is on top. And what that does is it makes the fat cold because you have a ladle full of ice. It makes the fat cold. When the fat is cold, it solidifies, and it solidifies, sticks to the ladle, and then they wash off the ladle and they do that again. So that's one thing that people do. Another thing that you could do is just really, really rapidly chill it down. You could just take off the top layer, put it into like a bowl on top of another bowl with some ice in it. But the easiest thing that you can do, Death Owl, is just to put it into the fridge. Let it cool down, let it really, really quickly cool down, or for however many hours, and then you scoop up all of the fat. Okay, so those are my different pieces of advice. It depends on what you're going for. The best way is indeed to chill it. The best way is to chill it, let it solidify, scoop it off the top. The quickest way, I think, is the gravy separator. I really, really think that you should take advantage of a gravy separator, okay? So, everybody, we have a lot that we need to get done today. We have to do the vegetable prep, we have to do the risotto, we have to shred some cheese. Is everybody ready? We have a nice long day ahead of us, and as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Okay, so the chicken stock is going, and the chicken stock is of course going to be used for the risotto itself. Let's begin with doing some of the vegetable prep that we need to get done together for today. So, actually, really quickly, I'm going to be setting, we'll set a pot of boiling water, and we'll talk about what we need for in just a second. So, everybody, to go alongside my risotto today, I have this lovely assortment, well, not assortment. I just have some white button mushrooms. Why am I using white button mushrooms? Because they were the cheapest available to me. This technique that I'll be showing you today for the sauteed mushrooms is going to be infinitely applicable to any kind of mushroom that you may have. One of my favorite mushrooms, I love oyster mushrooms, I love maitake mushrooms. Those are all super, super delicious. I'm just using plain old white button mushrooms, and I wash in water. So let's talk about this really quickly. Let's talk about why wash in water and some of the problems that people may have with it. In classical French cooking, it is considered a sin to wash mushrooms underwater. They go, oh, you wash away all the flavor. The mushrooms soak up the water. Okay, I'm not very good at a French accent, so that's done. But they say that mushrooms are spongy and it soaks up all of the liquid. And honestly, it does soak up some liquid when you do run it under some water, that much is true, but it doesn't really wash away flavor. Guys, running water and a little brush, that's all that I do to get all of the visible dirt off of it. You'll see the dirt, you'll see like the mycelium, it'll be like black. Okay, it'll be like these little like black specks on top of the mushroom, and like these dark brown parts, that's just the natural oxidation of the mushrooms. So guys, I have some lovely white butter mushrooms here. And I will be showing you my favorite way to cook them, which is doing the wet cooking method for the mushrooms, okay? So I don't really care about the fact that they're waterlogged right now. I do not care. So Jack, I used to do that, but honestly, I think it's really wasteful. I think it's incredibly wasteful. So all that we're going to need to do is just chop up the mushrooms however we would like. The way that you actually cut this, in my opinion, doesn't really matter, because mushrooms, as you may know, they just shrink up when you cook them. They really shrink down, they really, really shrivel up. And so I'm just going to be chopping them into the kind of bite-sized pieces that I like, which is quarters. Right, so I just take it and I slice it into quarters, and these are the kinds of pieces of mushrooms that I like to eat. For the slightly bigger ones, I would probably cut them, maybe into 6, or if they're super big, I'll cut them into 8s. But guys, you could kind of just mess around and find out with these things, okay? You don't have to be super precise with cutting mushrooms. They do just tend to cook down at the end of the day, okay? So we're just going to go through every single one of these bad boys, and we're just going to slice them into the bite-sized pieces that we are looking for, okay? I love mushrooms. I love cooking with mushrooms. I feel like I don't make enough mushroom things. And the reason why mushrooms are such an ideal protein, you can't really overcook them. They'll always hold on to their texture and they reheat incredibly well. I think more people should be eating mushrooms, and a lot of people, they're kind of afraid of mushrooms. They consider them to be slimy. They consider them to be wet. But guys, my mushrooms today, I'm going to show you how to make them really, really delicious. Okay? I think, so mushrooms, they tend to be a little bit more of a difficult food for a lot of people. There's so many different ways to cook mushrooms. So when people say they hate mushrooms, I find that they've oftentimes just had like the really slimy boiled mushroom texture. You can have a mushroom soup where all the mushrooms are cooked down and pureed, and those are really, really delicious. Okay? You never liked mushrooms? Maybe you suck at cooking them? Now hold on, Dr. Finger. So let's talk about this really quickly. Tell me specifically, I want to diagnose this. I want to find out, what is it that you hate about mushrooms? I would love to find out. What do you not like about mushrooms? And then, let me tell you, you tell me what you don't like about mushrooms, and I bet I can find you a preparation of mushrooms that you would adore, that you would just love to death. Okay? Because that's what I want to do. I want to help people. I want to help people get more comfortable with different foods. And so what happens is, most people, they go through their entire lives, they have, this is not me saying that you have an incorrect preference, but at some point in your life, you've had a couple of bad preparations of mushrooms. You never had anybody in your life sit down with you and figure out, what is it about this mushroom that you don't actually really like? What do you not like about this? Maybe we can figure out some ways to mitigate this thing. So you said the texture. So Dr. Finger, let me tell you something right now. When it comes to the texture of raw mushrooms, I despise them. I cannot stand the texture of raw mushrooms. But can you talk to me about which specific part of the texture you don't like? Is it the snap? Is it the sliminess? And tell me about the kinds of varieties of mushrooms that you've tried. And then I bet you give me all that information, I bet I can suggest you something that you may or may not enjoy sometime. Okay. So let's do that. And then everybody, we have one last one to do. Just chop it up into those little bite-sized pieces that I was talking about before. And now we have processed up all of my lovely, beautiful white button mushrooms. And guys, the way that we're gonna be cooking these mushrooms, it's going to be same no matter the mushrooms that you have. If you wanna get a little bit more creative with this, you can do shiitake mushrooms, you can do oyster mushrooms. Again, I am just using these because I have these cheap and available to me, which is the way that I cook at home. If I had a little bit more, at the moment, I would want to invest in some really, really nice quality mushrooms. But these bad boys, guys, even the humble white button mushroom can become delicious. Can I please get a yes, chef? So we got them all chopped down. We got them all processed. Let me go ahead and put that aside and put that behind us. Okie dokie. Now, let's move on to the next thing that we need to do for today, which is going to be processing it down this onion. Okay, I have this red onion here, and this is going to be used specifically for the risotto today. Okay, and so let's talk about this really quickly. What would I do, chef, if you had dry mushrooms? I mean, dry mushrooms are amazing in a stock. You reconstitute them, chop them up, you put them in a soup, use them all the time in a lot of Chinese cooking. I love dried mushrooms. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and slice off the dirty roots. And so let us talk about this, and let's talk about authenticity, and let's talk about risottos. So traditionally, in a risotto, the allium, the aromatic that you would use, would be a shallot. But let me tell you something. I don't currently have shallots. I have red onions. Alliums like leeks, shallots, onions, they're, for the most part, fairly interchangeable. Now, does that mean they're going to be exactly the same? No. They're going to be slightly different, but we should embrace the differences of these different things. So is my risotto gonna have shallots and be super authentic? No. But is it going to be authentic to my home kitchen and still be delicious? Absolutely it will be. But the allium component, I consider it essential within a risotto. The allium component contributes that really delicious aromatic quality. It contributes a really nice sweetness. And so, let me talk to you all about one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make. And this is inspired by the fact that I had a lovely friend of mine, I will not mention their name, okay, but I had a lovely friend of mine once make me a risotto, okay? And then I saw the chunks of onions that they had within the risotto, and it was massive chunks of onion. Everybody, you want a fine dice on your alliums, on your shallots, on your red onions when you're making a risotto. And let me tell you why. The goal is to not bite into a chunk of onion. The goal is for it to basically dissolve. The goal is for it to get so soft that it dissolves and it makes everything nice and sweet. By having big chunks, you're going to bite into the onion and you're going to get that texture, but that's not what we're looking for. We are looking for the onion to contribute to the risotto, but we're not supposed to directly bite into it. So can I please get a yes, chef? I want to make sure that all of you have just understood that, because this is really important stuff, okay? So I'm just going to just slice off that slightly dried off end. This is my leftover red onion that I had just sitting around. And so I'm not gonna go out of my way to buy ingredients, okay, that are not, I deem, completely necessary for the integrity of a dish. A beautiful risotto can still be made with red onions. It can be made with a sweet onion, a white onion. You can do it with, with leeks. Guys, have fun in the kitchen. You can learn what is and isn't interchangeable. You learn what is and isn't interchangeable, and there's so much creativity that you could have. Okay, this is how we make the most of what we have. So we're gonna do a fine dice. As you guys can tell, we have the root of the onion, this yellow part right here. This is the root of the onion, completely intact, okay? And it's holding together this fan of onions. We're going to be doing the onion fan method. Let me quickly just tie up my hair. Okay, we're gonna be doing the onion fan method, and we're going to be getting the smallest possible dice imaginable. And I mean small, I mean fine, I mean tiny, teeny tiny little pieces, okay? So let's go ahead and begin, and I'm gonna have a little sip of water. And as always, guys, especially for risotto, you want to make sure that all of your prep is done well ahead of time, okay? Because when we start the risotto, we have a lot of active time. We're always gonna be standing over the stove. So we're going to be doing the onion fan method. This is the root, and this is where the head was that we sliced off. We're going to be gently fanning out, but we're not going through all the way to the end of the onion. We're making a bunch of parallel incisions into the onion. Thin parallel incisions. And now that we have a quarter of an onion, is this how you avoid tears? Nakopi, you avoid tears by just having a sharp knife. A sharp knife means that you're crushing less cells and you're producing less, or you're releasing less of the stuff that ends up making you cry, okay? Like an 1/8 to a 1/4 inch apart. Serena, don't even bother with the measurements. Just do it as thinly as possible, okay? Because guys, look at this fan. This is what we're looking for. You see that fan? And then we give it a 1/4 turn. We flip it over, okay? And then we're going to do the same exact thing to the side. It's gonna start falling apart a little bit, but trust the process. Okay, as many as we can go. And now guys, look at the fine dice. Look at it. Nice, beautiful, fine, little teeny tiny chunks. Oh, Serena, that was not good. That was bad. I'm sorry. So guys, stance up, right? Get nice and stance up and look at the beautiful red onion. This is the kind of dice that I'm talking about. Nice and small, because we don't want to bite into the red onion. The goal is not to get chunks of red onion. The goal is for this to dissolve inside of the risotto, my friends, because it dissolves and it's going to make the whole thing nice and sweet and delicious, okay? So just going through it. Beautiful. Look at that. That is the kind of a dice that I'm talking about. And anybody is able to do this. Guys, let me tell you something about a kitchen right now. If you are struggling, because a lot of people, they struggle with what they call knife skills. If you're struggling with knife skills, go slowly. You do not need to rush. Guys, I've been cooking for a very long time. Do you see how long I'm taking to cut this onion? Go slowly. You will build speed over time. Okay, there's a very good music analogy here because I'm also learning music simultaneously. Guys, you cannot start at a high tempo before you do a low one. First, get it right on a low tempo. First, do it on a low speed, low tempo, okay? And then you will naturally be able to build up that kind of speed over time, okay? So in fact, I feel like this would be a little too much red onion for the risotto today. I might be only doing like one more of the quarters, and I might be setting aside the other one for later. Look at that, look at that, look at that. That is exactly the kind of a dice I'm talking about. Anybody can do this. Anybody can make those kinds of beautiful knife cuts. They're not just for professional chefs. And there's a reason we have those beautiful knife cuts, because we want it to melt in. It's not just to make it arbitrarily fancy, but the actual structure of the onion has implications on the way that it cooks. Can I please get a yes, chef? Okay, so sometimes, like the mushrooms, it doesn't totally matter. In this case, having a fine dice is essential. And some of you may ask me, oh, Daramgar, why don't we just use a food processor? Why don't we just use a cheese grater? And the reason is, they're a lot duller devices, and they tend to really destroy the vegetable itself. If you need it for accessibility reasons, you can absolutely use one. It just tends to release a lot more water when cooking, and because of how much more water it releases, it tends to burn a little bit easier. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just do really quickly my other little red onion half. Okay, my red onion quarter, excuse me. So we're making a lot of, once again, parallel, thin incisions. We're fanning out Mr. Onion here. Okay, now we're turning him into a little onion brush. We gave him a quarter turn. We're fanning him out, we're fanning him out, fanning him out, fanning him out. Lovely. And now let's go ahead and get that same small dice. And now this one's falling apart a little bit. That's okay, it happens to the best of us. So let's just go ahead and clean up these little pieces that ended up falling off. And let's move that all to the side. Does anybody have any questions about this process? Does anybody have any questions about knife skills, about anything that we're doing? So it's tending to fall apart a little bit this time. I might have gone a bit overboard with my amount of incisions, but that's okay, because I'll just go ahead and take each of these shrapnels of onion and just go ahead and continue to get that fine dice that we are looking for. I'm not going to pass my knife through it. I'm not going to do anything crazy like that. We're just continuing to get the fine dice that we so desire. Dice it and dice it and dice it. There you go. And these little pieces all have to come off. Dice it and dice it. And I'm going to say that this is all done for us. So nice small dice on this red onion, guys. That's exactly what we're looking for, because again, we're looking for it to essentially dissolve into today's risotto. It's going to make it nice and sweet and beautiful. We're using the bench scraper to scoop everything up. Okay, that has now been done. And I am going to just quickly go ahead and do away with this red onion. I'm going to go ahead and just throw this back on into the fridge, because I'll use it for something else later on. I'm not going to really have it be in my mushrooms and broccoli rabe today. We'll just do something else with it. Okay, okay. So what else do we actually need to do for today? Because we want to get all of the prep done, guys. We want to get all the prep done so that when it actually comes time to cooking things, we're not dancing between, we're not jumping between the cutting board and the stove. Is egg the best, like the best animal protein there is? I mean, I really like eggs. I don't know if it's the best though, Jack. I don't know like what the best even is. That's such a subjective question here that you're asking me, So I really don't know how to answer what is the best of anything. It just depends on your intentions. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of this. Let's go ahead and just set that aside behind us. And let's continue with the rest of the prep that we need to do. I'm just gonna go ahead and put my cheese in the fridge so it stays nice and cold. Okie dokie. Let's go ahead and begin processing up some garlic for today, my friends. Okay, as always, we only work with whole cloves at home. So some whole cloves of garlic. We're going to need some in the risotto. So if any of you have ever watched a really traditional Italian risotto, and again, I have a lot of problems with the way that people do traditional Italian things. They put one garlic clove whole and then they take it out and they say that does enough. I personally, at least with the way that my palate has been conditioned with a lot of American Italian cooking, I love aggressive garlic. Chat, do we like garlic? Do we like aggressive garlic? And so I'm going to make my risotto aggressively garlicky, aggressively flavorful. Okay? So we're gonna use, a bunch of garlic. Maybe like 4 cloves for this application. And then I'm also going to need to get a couple of extra for my broccoli rabe and mushrooms. Okay? So let me just go ahead and go through this, grab a few more cloves, and we're going to be processing it. I recognize you as a Smash commentator, but your channel is all about cooking. You have a new lurking fan? Well, thank you, Install Virus. How'd you find the show? Did you come here from Twitter? Or did you find me through Twitch? But yes, I mostly do Brawlhalla stuff now, and I wanted to teach people how to cook. It's my passion. Okay. 3 to 4 is what you go with. Guys, completely eyeball it. Just go purely by vibes on this one. Okay, just again, use as much garlic as your heart desires. Because again, there is no wrong quantity of garlic. It is completely relative to your own intentions. And so, let's go ahead and get into one of my favorite cooking rants, which is how much I hate chopping garlic. I hate chopping garlic. I think it is an incredible headache. And so instead of chopping garlic, all that we're going to be doing, my friends, is we're going to be using my favorite tool, the handy dandy little garlic press. Okay, well, Install Virus, it's lovely to have you. This is a garlic press. I think everybody needs a garlic press. Can I please get a yes, chef? Please and thank you. When you're mincing garlic, it gets really, really sticky. It becomes really, really difficult to actually get a proper chop on it. People start doing a rock chop, and it's a complete waste of time. Guys, let's get into the habit of using a garlic press. But what we're first going to do is we're going to gently press out each garlic clove, okay? Because we're going to separate the skin. Because the skin is dry and the clove is a little bit soft. The skin stays intact, the clove crushes and separates from the skin. And that way we're just able to easily peel it. So we're using the bench scraper. We're giving everything a nice generous squish. Okay, you wish this was you. Okay, every single one of them. Just gonna go ahead and get nicely, gently squished. We're not squishing it into oblivion, of course. Just squishing it enough that the skin, guys, take a look, take a look. Look at what happens now. Now that we've squished it, now that we've pressed it, the skin, theoretically at least, should be able to easily peel off of the garlic clove. This one's being a little bit stubborn, but that's okay. We're all a little stubborn sometimes. There you go. One beautifully peeled garlic clove. Some of these just easily tap out, just like that. Awesome. If I milk a sauce like a pound, I use 8 to 9 cloves. Yeah. If I make a sauce. Okay. I thought I said milk a sauce. I was confused what you were saying for a second, Jack. I misread. Okay. And let's just go in and go through all the way. That's another garlic clove. And that's another garlic clove. And we're going to be saving some, by the way, for the broccoli rabe and the mushrooms. And for those, I'm actually going to be doing a sliced garlic and not, I'll just do a minced garlic. Let's not overcomplicate it. Okay, all of our garlic cloves are nicely peeled. Let's just go ahead and just scoop up all of my scraps. Again, guys, having a bench scraper at home is so important. Okay, you're able to keep your stations nice and clean and organized. The only other thing that we need to do, we just have some dried bits of garlic, like the bottom parts, that we just want to go ahead and slice off and clean up. Okay, because we don't really want that. It's dried. It's not super flavorful, has a very unpleasant texture. It's just good practice. We're not eating the root of the onion. We're not eating the root of the garlic, okay? So let's go ahead and process each and every single one of them. And then, guys, we will have a bunch of beautifully peeled, ready to go garlic cloves for the pressing stage. Okay, awesome. And let's go ahead and get rid of these bad boys once again. So, guys, take a look. Garlic press. How many am I going to use for the risotto? I think about this many. And then this is going to be for the broccoli, rabe, and mushrooms. I want my risotto, that might be a little aggressive. Something like that. Let's do this split. This is going to be for the broccoli rabe, and this is going to be for the risotto. Guys, having little condiment cups at home, super useful. Let's just go ahead and go through every single one of these little garlic cloves and just press them through. Nice and easy. Everybody should own one of these. Okay, everybody should buy a garlic press. They're so easy to use. They're so convenient. They make such quick work of this. You're not spending 5 minutes chopping on your cutting board with salt. Guys, have you seen that method where people say, just put a little bit of salt on your cutting board and then spread the salt on your garlic cloves and then keep mincing and doing a rock chop and keep pressing it. It is so inefficient. It takes so much time and it just gets so sticky. I cannot stand that method to death. Okay, so there you go. That's going to be for Mr. Risotto. And then this is going to be for Mr. Broccoli rabe. Okay, so let's go ahead and get that pressed. And let's go ahead and get that pressed. This one just ended up popping out a little bit. Okay, and the next one. And the next last few cloves. Guys, do you see how quick this is? Do you see how quick work we're making out of all of these different garlic cloves? Right? That is the beauty of a garlic press. The speed, the efficiency, and just the convenience. I hate touching garlic. It's so sticky. It's not because of the smell or anything. It's just so sticky. It just gets everywhere. Okie dokie. So that is all done, my friends. Let me just go ahead and quickly wash this off under some cold running water and poke it with a little brush. Because again, we have to what? We have to clean as we go. I need to hear another yes, chef, please, and thank you. Clean as we go. I'm just poking the holes out with a little brush, making sure that all the garlic is off of it. And I'm going to go ahead and just throw that bad boy into the dishwasher. Okie dokie. Into the dishwasher she goes for future cleansing. Okay. And I'm just going to also put my heavy cream away while I have a second because I don't want that to get up to room temperature or anything. Okie dokie. So let's just quickly clean up my station. Again, this is going to be for the broccoli rabe and this is going to be for the risotto. I'm just going to go ahead and put both of those nicely behind me. Put them behind us. The future is now. The past is all gone. Does anybody have any questions for me in the meantime? Just use a razor to chop your garlic for 20 minutes. What was the movie that did that? There was like, There was like a movie with, I forgot what it was. I forgot. Not The Sopranos. There was another one. I think Goodfellas. I'm pretty sure Goodfellas. Yes. Okay, so yeah, that's not very efficient, I will have to say. I don't think that's a very useful method there. Yes. Okay, dokie. Let me go ahead and have a little sip of tea. Okay, let us talk about one of my favorite ingredients. This is a vegetable that I'm very lucky that I have access to, so I need everybody to listen to this one. I need everybody to tap in. Okay, this is broccoli rabe. It has these little florets and then has all of these little leaves and then this stem. Broccoli rabe is quickly becoming one of my favorite vegetables and is becoming a vegetable that I just want to become more comfortable with using because I've only cooked with it in the past a few times. Broccoli rabe, guys, it has so much flavor, it has an incredible texture, it is so good for you, and at the moment, this broccoli rabe is like $3 a pound. This is not bad at all. Okay, so broccoli rabe is not something that you see all the time in supermarkets. Guys, if you go to your supermarket and you see broccoli rabe, I want you to buy some for me. Sometimes it's also sold as rapini, right? Broccoli rabe. There's a couple of other names, but guys, I really think that you should get it. Now, broccolini is something different, I believe. I don't believe this is the same as broccolini. Can somebody Google that for me? But yes, so I saw this in my supermarket today. I was really excited when I saw it because that means we get to use it today. So let's talk about this. If you grew up in, let's say, a place that had a very strong Italian-American presence. Let's say you grew up in Chicago. Let's say you grew up in, Chicago, I'm thinking especially Philadelphia, right? Maybe some parts of Brooklyn. The way that you're used to seeing this vegetable is it's really heavily cooked down. It's heavily cooked down and then it's added inside of sandwiches. Okay, especially like a roast pork sandwich. So you guys know what I'm talking about? Have you ever had like a roast pork sandwich with broccoli rabe inside? I feel like that's the way that a lot of people associate it. And honestly, that is a wonderful preparation of it. Unlike kale, unlike broccoli, unlike all of these other things, broccoli rabe really benefits from cooking it down long. We're not gonna just be quickly flashing it in some heat, my friends. We're not just gonna be quickly sauteing it. Broccoli rabe benefits from extended, and I mean extended sauteing. It gets so tender. You cook out some of the bitterness. You develop so much beautiful flavor. Okay? I love broccoli rabe. It is super delicious. So broccoli rabe is a little bit bitter sometimes, so it's really nice paired with other things, paired with other strong flavors. That bitterness can be delicious. By itself, quickly sauteed, it's way too chewy. So we're gonna be cooking it down really nice and slowly. But the first step, guys, to give it a bit of a head start is we're gonna be blanching it in some nice hot boiling water. I thought broccoli rabe was a dish for the longest time. Well, there you go. It's it's an entirely different plant. So let's talk about this. I have here a pot of boiling water. Before we actually saute it, we're going to be thoroughly boiling it. And let me talk to you why. With things like broccoli rabe, with things like kale, these kinds of greens, they tend to really cook down and lose a lot of volume. So imagine we took all of this broccoli rabe and we put it inside of a pan. Look at how much space it takes up. And then it'll also unevenly cook. The top of it will be raw, the bottom of it will be sauteing. Guys, it'll take like 30 minutes of pure sauteing to get it completely collapsed. So we give it a bit of a head start in some plain boiling water. Okay, and in the boiling water itself, we're gonna be giving it a head start. We're gonna be cooking it for about a minute and a half for the florets and about a minute for the leaves. So the first thing that we have to do is just separate the florets from the leaves. Okay, so you see this is one of the big florets here, big florets, and then there's gonna be some standalone leaves, and we're just gonna add those in separately. Okay. So these leaves that are just already by themselves, we don't really need to pluck it out, guys. Again, with broccoli rabe, you can't really overcook it. So we don't have to be super crazy about this or anything. Okay? We don't have to be too crazy about this. You don't have to overthink this process at all, guys. We can keep it really nice and simple. It does look like dandelion, doesn't it? This leaf as well, it really does. I had that same thought. I almost mixed it up at the store. So really good observation, underestimated monkey. People gotta stop underestimating you. Yeah, you got the right idea, my friend. Okay? So, all of that, gorgeous, wonderful. Let's just get all of those big florets out, right? And we'll just keep all of like the leaves and like the really thin florets all in here. Okay, excellent. And almost done. Okie dokie. And we're not going to separate them. We're not going to remove it or anything. Do you need to make some sugar or balsamic vinegar? It's not that bitter. It's a little bit bitter. Some people find that bitterness to be slightly unpleasant. I don't find it to be particularly that awful or anything, okay? So, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and dunk this bad boy into the boiling water. And we're going to be putting it in for about a minute and a half or so. We don't need to shock it in cold water. Again, it's okay if you overcook it. It's kind of supposed to be overcooked. It's supposed to get really, really soft. Chef, I want to softly challenge you on one point about trash YouTube food content. Please go ahead. What's up? What do you want to challenge me on? I appreciate a challenge. Guys, if you think I said something that's wrong, please tell me. And I will prove how right I am, actually. So let's get all of my broccoli rabe florets inside directly. And I'm just going to use this lovely tool. Guys, this is one of my favorite kitchen tools. This is called a spider because it's able to get everything up in one shot. I think everybody should have a spider at home. Okay? And now we're going to set a timer for about a minute and a half or so. Also, welcome on in, Natalie. It's lovely to see you. Okay, so really quickly, just going to need a second clock, and I think we're now actually at about a minute, if anything. So just a minute of additional cook time. Let's just make sure that all of my broccoli rabe florets, guys, we want them nice and submerged. And we're not going to shock them in ice water. This isn't super delicate. I promise you all, this process is super, super easy. Anybody can do this, okay? Some very mid content is bad and can still get people excited to cook. So yes, Serena, I do agree with you that it could get people excited to cook, except I think I do a better job of getting people more excited to cook. So it still serves a function, but it just doesn't do it very well, and everybody else could be doing it better with bad food content. I'm not saying that it's all bad. I'm saying it could still have a positive output, but it could just be a lot better and a lot less lazy. So, hope this helps. Oh, I love being right. I love being right. It is one of my favorite things. Okay. The only good cooking channel I found is Mama Cherry. I don't really know. Do I know who that is? His name sounds familiar. Okie dokie, guys, we're just going to give that a little bit of extra cook time because it lost a lot of heat when we added in the broccoli rabe. Okay, we added in, sorry, I was being really mean. Serena, I didn't want to be mean to you. I just like being right that much. Okay, so this has now been in for the appropriate amount of time. Again, the water is going to get a little bit green. It's okay. We're losing a little bit of flavor. We are losing a little bit of nutritional value. But I promise you the broccoli rabe still has plenty to offer. So just dunk it back on in because, again, we lost a lot of heat when we added it on in because it was cold. Okay, just make sure that it's all nice and submerged. And now let's go ahead and remove all of my lovely broccoli rabe. And again, you don't have to rush. It's not going to overcook in the water or anything. I promise you that. Okay, let's just take it out and we're just going to let it now steam dry, which is a very nice added benefit of not shocking it in ice water. We want to get rid of all of this liquid, okay? But letting it steam dry is one of the easiest ways to do so. Okie dokie. So, everybody. So, Undergasted Monkey, you can, I can't. Taza, stop it. Stop it. You're spreading misinformation. You can, just don't overdo it. You can do whatever you want, really. Okay, so let's add in the broccoli rabe leaves now, and that's only going to need about roughly a minute or so. And guys, again, this is a vegetable that I am just so excited about lately. I want to eat a lot more vegetables in my diet. I feel like a lot of my early streams, they were super meat focused, super cheese focused, and we're still going to be really cheese focused today. We're going to be cheesing it. We're going to be absolutely cheesing it, making the risotto. But I just want to have like this delicious mushroom broccoli rabe as a side. It's going to be delicious. It's going to be flavorful, guys. It's going to have so much texture. This is a vegetable that all of you should be eating. Can I please get a yes, chef? I want to get you all eating. I want to get you all excited about this magnificent, magnificent vegetable. It's so fun. It's so delicious. It's so flavorful. And now that my broccoli rabe leaves and the little teeny tiny baby florets have officially boil moded, I'm not going to say that again. Let's go ahead and take them out. And once again, they will be left to all properly steam dry. And that's it. That's all of the initial blanching. That's all the prep that it's going to need for today. I soaked it in water. I did a little salad spinner to get, the excess water off, to get the dirt off. Okay? And so here is my broccoli rabe. And we're just going to let it cool off until we're ready to cook with it. So everybody, this is why we also blanch it ahead of time. It loses a lot of volume. So now that it's lost a lot of volume, when we actually get to cutting it, it's not going to spread out all over the place, okay? So it's just going to be a lot easier for us. So what is this? Wait, what's happening in chat? I feel like I missed something. Okay, anyways, so all my broccoli rabe is blanched. And guys, a really, really good thing that you can do, which I did previously, last time I made broccoli rabe, I blanched all of it, and then I saved some in the fridge. Guys, you buy broccoli rabe, blanch it, you don't have to cook it all immediately. Whenever you just want to eat it, let's say you want to have a nice, quick, fresh lunch, you just store it. Okay, you store it, you heat up a pan, and then you saute it. Pre-boiling this a few days in advance could be really, really good and easy for a routine. Okay, if you want to have a nice quick lunch, buy this, blanch it in advance, and it'll still be good for a couple more days. Of course, blanch, fresh, it's going to be best, but blanching it in advance is also a very valid method. Okay, so that's exactly what we just did here, my friends. We just blanched all my broccoli rabe. We're gonna let it cool down and steam dry. All of that steam is coming off of it. Also, welcome on in. I am Arwen. Okay, all that beautiful broccoli rabe. I'm gonna go ahead and set that behind me. Does anybody have any questions for me? In the meantime, because remember, I am here to teach you all how to cook. I'm here to teach you all how to cook at home. So any and all questions can and will be always, always appreciated. Okie dokie. So my chicken stock at the moment has about 27 minutes left on it. Are Mizono knives 440 good knives? Underrated monkey. I'm not actually entirely familiar with the 440 knives, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. Do you love being great? I sure do. How many knives do I own? So I own the Corlin Damascus Petty. I own this Suisun Enox 80 paring knife. I own the Mizono UX10 Gyuto. Also Zen the Dreamer, thank you so much for the gifted sub. I own the Kramer's Willing knife. I also have, I forgot what brand, I think I have a Mac fish knife. I have a Mac fish fillet knife, okay? And I also have a really garbage shun knife that I got as a gift that I think I would just give away or sell to somebody because I hate shun knives. I hate them. I do not like shun knives at all. Okie dokie, so my broccoli rabe is done. Let's start thinking about everything else that we need to do for today, everybody. My chicken stock is going. Some of my vegetable prep is done. We need to shred up some cheese. We gotta shred up some cheese, we gotta shred up some Parmesan as well. We gotta get that done and that out of the way for today. So let's just go ahead and do that now. Can I have your knife, Jack? No. Hope this helps. So I have this. Actually, we'll just use, I'm trying to think with the amount of risotto that I will be making, I think we should compensate with the large bowl. So everybody, everything starts from the stream by first looking at what I have in my fridge, because this isn't just the best cooking show on Twitch. This is, above all else, a home cooking show. And what does it mean for something to be a home cooking show? Okay? For something to be a home cooking show, guys, means that we are integrating this into my home lifestyle. Everything that I make on stream is not just stuff for the camera, but I am feeding both myself and my mom 3 times a week with the things that I make at home. So I made, well, I didn't make, excuse me, I have this half block of mozzarella left after I made my lasagna. Okay, and so we're going to be integrating into the risotto today. This was the inspiration. Traditionally, of course, a beautiful risotto, it doesn't have mozzarella in it, but in arancini, these fried risotto balls, super delicious. They're stuffed with mozzarella, and this baked one is just going to be incredibly delicious, my friends. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so delicious. So I'm going to tie up my hair really quickly once again. Also, Z the Dreamer, welcome on in. It is lovely to have you as always. Let me go ahead and get my cheese grater out and ready to go. Actually, did I already put it away? Where is my cheese grater? Guys, am I missing my cheese grater? That would be like, I don't know, bordering catastrophic. That would be pretty awful. Okay, I found it. Aha. I have found my cheese grater. Okie dokie. So, cheese grater, mozzarella, let's glove up just to make my life easier. Let's glove up, let's glove up, let's glove up. Awesome. And we're going to be using all of this. This is half a block of mozzarella. Am I measuring things? No. We're going entirely by vibes. We just want it to be nice and cheesy and nice and delicious. In fact, we're going to save some just to cube. This is something I really like doing, guys. I like having a textural variation. Okay, so some little tiny cubes of cheese will result in these nice pockets of cheese, and then the rest of it is just going to get shredded and mixed up. Dara, I'm prepping my plating exam as we speak. Hi, Shiny Mike. It's lovely to have you. It's good to see you. Plating exam. Wait a second. Plating exam? What do you mean plating exam? What's the context? So guys, box grater. I like to have it down flat on my cutting board. Instead of holding it up and everything spilling out. Look how good this method is, guys. We take it, we shred it this way, And then the box grater scoops everything up for us. That is the beauty of this method. Yeah, Serena, what you said. So let's just go ahead and we're going to go through all this mozzarella. Also, thank you so much for the gifted sub to Shiny Mug. We're going to go through all of this mozzarella and we're just going to grate it up into some lovely shreds. And if your mozzarella or your soft cheese is crumbling too much when you grate it, you can just stick it in the freezer for a little bit and it's going to grate up a lot easier. But at the moment, this is looking perfect. Awesome. Okay, and let's keep grating it up. Looks about 4 vibes of mozzarella. That's right. That is how much I'm using. And so I wanted to use all of it in one shot because, again, the most important thing about cooking at home is to use what you have. So I have to cook a main dish. I have to play with one of the classic styles plus molecular garnish. Exciting. I didn't know that. I think you might have mentioned it before now that you say that. I just didn't know that you were, like, I guess doing that. Are you like in culinary school? Okay, and let's just go through all of the mozzarella, my friends. Is it possible to grate the still wet mozzarella? No, Serena. Still wet mozzarella is so annoying. So I would just air dry it a little bit. I would pat it dry with some paper towels or something, but I would not try to grate like a super wet mozzarella. I would just chop it up. What they do in like Neapolitan pizza places, they have something called a guitar string. Right? They have like this little box with a bunch of guitar or like piano strings on it, and then they push the cheese through that instead. So that's what I would actually use for like a fresh mozzarella, for like a wet mozzarella. Okay? They have like this little box with these piano strings, right? It's the same way that you would do like other kinds of soft cheese cutting. That's what I would recommend. Okay, so guys, take a look. We have now officially grated up all of my lovely mozzarella, almost all of it, because again, we're still saving some for this other purpose that I had in mind. Okay, let's just go ahead and clean up my cutting board. Let's get all the stuff off of it. Okay, just tap, 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 tap. Get all of that lovely mozzarella cheese inside. And I'm just using, you know, very American block mozzarella, not like a fresh mozzarella or anything, right? Nothing too good, but it's what I had. And so we cook with what we have, first and foremost. So I'm just gonna go ahead and quickly just rinse that off and throw that into my dishwasher while I have a second of time, because again, I want to mitigate and avoid any potential messes. Got that, throw that inside, throw that in my dishwasher, and be done with it. Lovely. Okie dokie. And now, all that we're gonna wanna do, we could just cube up the rest of this little tiny chunk of mozzarella, my friends. Okay? We can just cut it up into these little slices, and then we just cut it up into cubes, and that way, we get these two different textures of mozzarella inside of the final product. We get these lovely strings, this lovely grated cheese, okay? All the way throughout, and then every now and then we'll get this pocket of cheese, and it's going to be amazing. Chef, is there something that you can't do? Honestly, Jack, I am going to say no. Can't as in never in my lifetime? No. Are there things in the kitchen that I can't do? Honestly, Jack, the only thing that I want to say that I can't do is make very good quality bread. I can't make very good quality bread because it's very, very difficult in a home setting especially, but then also I'm just not trained in it because it is an entirely different school of thought. There's a lot of theory to it, there's a lot of misinformation, but I would say that I'm probably worst at bread, if anything. Also, welcome on in, Val. It's lovely to have you. Okay, guys, so we got all of my mozzarella grated up. We got all of that nicely shredded. And now all that I'm going to quickly do, I'm just going to wrap it in some plastic. Can you pray I have test tomorrow? Val, you're going to do amazing so as long as you studied. Did you study? Did you practice? Did you do everything correctly? Then you're going to do great. If you didn't do it, then I hope it's easier than you think it is. So that is all the advice that I have for you. So guys, I'm gonna stick this in my fridge just to keep it nice and cold so that my cheese doesn't melt, so it doesn't turn into a clump or anything. And I'm just gonna keep it wrapped up in some plastic. And we wrap it up in the plastic so that it doesn't dry out on top, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and just stick that bad boy into the fridge. Also, Shiny Mug, I don't know if you're still here, Shiny Mug, but if you are, I'm very impressed that you were able to major in college and still compete in Ultimate on such a high level. Not a lot of Ultimate players can do that. So, good job. Very proud of you. Okie dokie. Okay, so we're getting all of this cheese off of my cutting board, and now we need to go ahead and get a bunch, and I do truly mean a bunch of Parmesan for today. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my Parmesan out of the fridge really quickly. and we're going to get that all grated up. And let's talk about the Parmesan here for a second, everybody. So, in traditional Italian cooking, of course, for risotto, you would use Parmigiano Reggiano. Parmigiano Reggiano, of course, comes from a certain region of Italy, and it's really, really aged and dry. Now, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something right now. I need you all to listen to this. I need a yes chef from everybody watching. A really, really important thing that you need to keep in mind. American Parmesan and Italian Parmigiano are not interchangeable. Grana Padano and Parmigiano can actually be quite interchangeable because Parmigiano Reggiano is just purely regional. But American Parmesan is significantly softer, milder, and less intense. So if you want to use American Parmesan in something, it's not exactly a one-to-one substitute. You're just going to need more. Italian Parmigiano Reggiano is, of course, really, really expensive. I love Parmigiano Reggiano. I am the one that is buying all the groceries, and so I'm going to opt for this instead in the meantime. That does not mean that American Parmesan is necessarily a worse product. It's just different. It's slightly more mild, it's a little bit less aged, and it's a little less salty, okay? So that just means we're going to need more to be able to get that kind of an effect, my friends. And they're spelled differently. Parmigiano, P-A-R-M-I-G-I-A-N-O, and this is Parmesan, right? This is the anglicized writing, because Parmigiano Reggiano is a specific regional designation. So again, they're not exactly the same thing, but that does not mean that Parmigiano Reggiano is better than this stuff right here. It does not mean that it's necessarily better, guys. It just means that it's different. And this is what people do all the time in terms of authenticity. Also, Shiny Mug, thank you for stopping by. It's lovely to have you. So, guys, there's so many pretentious Italians, or specifically people who don't cook nearly well enough to tell you that, oh, this is the right way to do it and this is the wrong way to do it. Okay? They're essentially Italian Redditors. They just say things that they've heard before. Guys, it's all about your intentions. If you have access to American Parmesan, it's okay. Just use a little bit more. Can I please get a yes chef from everybody watching? Okay? So, listen to me, not them. That'll never go wrong. That'll never have any consequences. So, God, this is great. I just get to exercise all of the manipulative language that I never get to use in my day-to-day life. Sorry. So, Parmesan. Let's go ahead and get us 2 bowls because we're going to need this in 2 separate applications for today. Or rather, I can just do it all in 1 bowl, and I think that'll be okay too. Okay, and so my favorite tool for specifically grating Parmesan, guys, is going to be this guy right here. This is called a microplane. You're going to want to get the finest setting. You could also just do this in a food processor. The problem with a food processor, though, if you run it too long, it gets too warm and it starts clumping. Okay, so microplane, we're going to get this beautiful dusting. Guys, look at this gorgeous, gorgeous dusting. These gorgeous shavings of mozzarella all throughout. And this is going to go into the risotto and then also into my breadcrumb topping. There you go. And we're going to need a bunch of it because, guys, guess what? You can't have too much cheese in life. You can't have too much cheese. We are officially cheesing it today. We're going to have a bunch of it in the breadcrumbs. We're going to have a bunch of it in the risotto. I love Parmesan to death and back. Okay, and I don't mind using this much for today because, again, this is also the cheaper kind, and we do need a little bit more because of how much more mild American Parmesan is. So we're grating it. We're using the microplane. Guys, look at this beautiful grating that we get. This is why I love the microplane. It's like, it's so fluffy. It's so cloudy, you know? That's why I really, really like using this. Okay, and I think that should be, theoretically, enough cheese for today. Let's just tap, 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 tap. Let's get all of it off. And we still might need to use this later on. I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this up and put this back into the fridge. Okay, and then we're also just going to prepare the breadcrumb topping in a separate bowl. It's also going to need some melted butter later on. I don't want to add that in immediately. So I'm just going to mix this now with the breadcrumbs. So, this is going to be used for the breadcrumb topping. This is what's going to go directly inside of the risotto itself. So I'm going to just go ahead and put this bad boy just behind me. It's okay if it melts in because the goal of that Parmesan is for it to melt in. Okay, everybody? And now I have here some panko breadcrumbs. Why am I using specifically panko breadcrumbs? Because they're really, really crispy. These are Japanese breadcrumbs. They're super crispy. They come in these really, really like massive, like almost like shrapnels of bread. You could theoretically just use any kind of breadcrumb that you would like. The reason why I'm using this one is just because of how crispy it is. Also, so what is happening in chat? What is going on here? Can we get a moderator just to delete that message, please? And thank you. So this is going to be the breadcrumb topping for today. Am I going to be measuring this? No. Chat, I'm just going to be eyeballing this. I'm just going to be eyeballing it. I'm just going to be going purely by vibes here. Okay, on how much breadcrumb topping I'm actually going to want for today. And I think this should be more than enough. That looks good. And all I'm really looking to do now is I'm just looking to distribute the cheese before it clumps up. Okay, because the longer that it sits, especially in room temperature, the more it can clump up. I'm just really, really making sure that it's distributed evenly with my breadcrumbs, okay? Is everybody still listening? I want to hear a nice yes, chef. And I know we haven't done any of like the big cooking yet, but guys, I promise you, it's all still gonna happen. It's all gonna happen really, really soon. The chicken stock is almost done. It's gonna be delicious. It's gonna be amazing. Okay, so again, I'm just tossing the breadcrumbs with that. Okay, and then let's also season this bad boy up a little bit. I'm gonna put the breadcrumbs away and into my pantry because we do not need it for now. Do I not have space in this thing? Will it fit up here? It will fit up here. Okay, I will need to reorganize that later on, but at the moment, I don't care. And let's go ahead and get some black pepper in here. And it's not really going to need a lot of salt. We're just gonna do a little bit of salt just because, the Parmesan itself is quite salty. So we don't need our topping to be overwhelmingly, added with salt. So a bunch of black pepper right on top, just like so. And then a little tiny pinch of kosher salt, because again, the panko breadcrumbs are indeed quite bland. So a little bit of kosher salt. I think that's gonna be more than enough for the topping element. And then later on, we're just going to add in, I believe, just some oil. Just some olive oil, maybe some butter. We'll do olive oil, I think. Make it easier for yourselves. Okay, toss it all together. And again, we're not adding the oil in immediately. We just wanted to get this breadcrumb mixture all ready to go. I'm just tossing it to make sure that all of the seasoning is evenly distributed. Awesome. Nice and peppery, nice and flavorful. This is what's going to be topping off our risotto for today. So we have a couple of more things that we need to get done. Is everybody still watching? Is everybody still excited for today? I hope you're excited because we got good stuff. We got cool stuff coming our way soon. Okay. Which bowl did I put the cheese in? Okay, I put in that one. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get some of my fresh herbs out for today. So one of the other goals for today, guys, was to use up some of the cilantro that I had. Specifically, the cilantro is going to go towards my sauteed mushrooms. Okay, it's gonna go towards my sauteed mushrooms and my sauteed broccoli rabe. Now, is this the most traditional herb that you see all the time be used in Italian cooking? Honestly, not particularly. Is it still gonna be delicious? The answer is yeah, absolutely, because it is, at the end of the day, still cilantro. So we're just gonna be finishing our broccoli with it, our broccoli and mushrooms with it, and it'll be nice and delicious. So let's just go through. Oh, let's actually just quickly get rid of all of these little breadcrumbs. Throw that into my waste bowl. Awesome. And now, guys, as you know, we're just gonna go through all of this one by one. Every single one of them. Let's get the stems off of the leaves. Now, this would be a really good time to ask me any and all cooking questions that you may have, because this is gonna be a bit of a boring, a bit of a repetitive process. I know. And the reason why I don't do this in advance is because it just tends to crush it a little bit too much. It stops it from staying nice and fresh in the fridge. The less that we chop it, the less that we crush it, the better of a fridge life it has. So that's why I only do this when I'm ready to cook with it. So yeah, chat, keep me entertained for this process. You know how it works. We're just plucking off the leaves from all of the different stems. I'm actually just gonna quickly dump out my waste bowl. And then you know exactly how we'll be slicing all of it down. What is my favorite knife? My Zwilling carbon steel Kramer knife. And the way that I sharpen it is I get it done professionally sharpened. I would like to learn how to be able to sharpen on stones myself sometime. But I don't feel confident to do it on my own quite yet. I would like to take a class from somebody. Ooh, really good question. Cloud9, you just asked me, how important is presentation? Do you think aesthetics can affect the way that people perceive and taste food? I have an amazing answer for you. Ready? I have a whole discussion about plating theory ready to go because I have a lot of thoughts on the subject matter. So, how important is presentation? I think presentation specifically Presentation, and I'm not saying aesthetics. I think presentation is really important. Specifically, the way that you put something on a plate dictates its function. I'm not talking about eating with your eyes or making it pretty. I mean suggesting the way that you're supposed to be eating something. So let me talk about what I mean. Let's talk about a steak that is intended to be like doused in sauce. Okay? The steak, and you're intending it to be doused in sauce. And let's say you're serving it for somebody and you want to completely control the amount of sauce that they're eating it with. So you would pour the sauce over the steak. Okay? But let's say this is for somebody that you don't know how much sauce that you want them to necessarily consume, and you're okay with having them, control it themselves. Then you would put it into a separate little container. Right? Because what we're always thinking about is function. Now, here's another thing. Let's say something is meant to be eaten separately. If something is meant to be eaten separately, I will never put it on the same plate as something else. For example, a steak and a salad. Think about the amount of times that you've gone out to restaurants and they've put a salad on the same plate as a hot steak. The salad, it becomes kind of warm and the lettuce just ends up wilting and the lettuce just soaks up all of the beef juices and it's not very pleasant. And so, you know why they put the salad on the same plate as the steak? Because they wanted to trick you and think, oh, this is fancy, this is pretty, we put it all on the same plate because it looks better. I think presentation is super important, but the most important part about presentation is the function above the aesthetics. You want to suggest the way that something is supposed to be eaten. You want to control how much you're eating something with something. You want to prevent somebody from eating something that is not meant to be eaten with something else. So presentation, I think, is really, really important. But then presentation is not the same as aesthetics. So let me talk about aesthetics really quickly. A lot of people, they compromise the taste and the quality of something for the sake of aesthetics. Consider my steak and salad example. So here's something that I love. I love in Vietnamese food how pho gets served separately with the bean sprouts. It gets served separately with the basil, okay? And it gets served separately with the lime. They do that because if they put it in for you, by the time they got it to you, it would all be overcooked and you can't control how much you're using. By having a separate garnish plate, even if it doesn't look as beautiful as a pile of herbs on top of your soup, it's so much more functional. At the end of the day, I love it when things are aesthetic, but not at the cost of function. Things above all else need to be functional. Never compromise how something tastes or how something eats just to make it look pretty. I need to hear a yes, chef, right now, please and thank you. So my food will never do that. Oh, that's the wrong scene. Excuse me. Gotta go back to cilantro. So everybody, we're not gonna crush the cilantro. We're not gonna destroy it. You already know. We take the cilantro and we gently bundle it up in our hands. We do not chop it. We do not destroy it. We just gently, gently bundle it up, okay? Hold it like a little baby bird. Not so firm that we crush its little brains out, and not so gently that it all, poof, flies away. We hold our little tiny baby bird. I'm just wiping off all of this stuff that could probably just go in the waste bowl. We hold down the baby bird. We put him down on a cutting board, okay? And we slice it, and we slice it nice and thin. Z the Dreamer, I have no idea what you're asking me. So we keep slicing, my friends. We slice, and we slice, and we slice, and we slice. And we slice it all the way through. We get these lovely, thin shreds of cilantro. We do not chop it. We don't crush it. We're using minimal vertical forks. Also, Z the Dreamer. Oh, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Thank you. That's so sweet of you. I guess I am prepared now. I guess I wasn't. I wasn't the whole time. I'm a fraud. Thank you, Z. That's very sweet of you. That's very kind. Okay, and now that we have these beautiful shreds of cilantro, my friends, take a look. It's not bleeding, it's not wet, right? It's all still nice and vibrant and nice and green. And I'm just going to go through this one more time and just get all of the big leaves just quickly sliced up. So thank you, Z. That was very kind of you. Lovely. All of my cilantro right now, it's all ready to go. And we're just going to go ahead and get it out on a separate plate. And guys, last but not least, an ingredient that I'm super excited about for today. And do you all know what that may be? Do you all know what ingredient I might be talking about? I have some basil. I normally don't have basil in my supermarket, so it's usually a little too expensive. I wanted to get myself a little bit of a treat today, and so we have some lovely, fresh basil. And so we're gonna be slicing it, we're gonna be garnishing it, and it's going to be delicious. We're gonna have some in the mushrooms. Oh, I'm really excited about the basil. Let's get a whole bunch of leaves. Some of the big leaves and one of the little leaves. and I think that should be okay. But yes, I am excited about the basil. I have not had a chance to have fresh basil in quite some time. It's usually too expensive. I want to treat myself today. There you go. That should look good. Okay, guys. So once again, remember the rule of fresh herbs. We don't crush. We don't chop. We only, what do we do, chat? What do we do? I want to hear a slice chef. Please and thank you from everybody watching. Also, I'm sorry, Jack. Okay, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pluck off like some of the like more nasty bits. This leaf looks great. This looks wonderful. I'm just plucking off the stem as well. Okay. That looks okay. Not the best basil in the world, right? It's a little bruised, it's a little old, but that's okay. Slice chef. I want to hear some more slice chefs. Everybody. A slice chef from everybody watching. Okay. So, there you go. All of my lovely little leaves of basil. Okay, guys, so here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing, and the really annoying cooking technique for this is called a chiffonade. I think a chiffonade, we're just going to roll it up and slice it. That's all that a chiffonade is. Okay, so we take all the leaves and we stack them up, roughly, you know, largest to smallest. We take them and we stack them up and we stack them up. And all that we're going to do, we're going to roll it up nice and tight. But we're not going to crush it all the way down, guys, okay? And we're going to take it, and what do, my friends? We slice it with minimal force. Minimal force. We're not crushing it. We're not chopping it. We're not doing anything to it. We're using the full length of the knife here. Guys, people have been making this joke about chiffonade and basil since the beginning of time. It is such an old cooking. Like, to call it a joke is giving it a lot of credit. So, guys, take a look. All of it beautifully sliced up, nice and thin. And this is going to go in as a garnish. There you go. All the way through, 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 and all the way through. And guys, take a look. My basil, it's not bruised. It's not crushed. It's not destroyed. Okay? Once again, like a little baby bird, nice and intact, properly sliced, done beautifully. Okay? Just gonna get rid of that little stem. There you go. Some fresh basil and some fresh cilantro. Look at that. Gorgeous. And I'm going to go ahead and set that behind me. Everybody, the pressure cooker is just about done. My chicken stock is just about done. You heard that beat? Ooh, I was so on time with that. Let's go ahead and turn it off and let's release the pressure. And are you all ready to see my beautiful, my delicious homemade chicken stock? But in the meantime, guys, we're going to do a little recap session. I'm going to have a little sip of water. Clean up my cutting board. So, everybody, today we're going to be doing two dishes. The first of which is a baked crispy risotto. Is this traditional? No. Is it going to be delicious? Absolutely it will be. We're going to be doing a risotto. We're going to start off by beautifully sauteing some onions and some olive oil. We're going to add in the rice, let the rice toast. Add in some garlic, deglaze it with some red wine, and then we'll be trickling in some chicken stock. And we'll talk about how to make a beautiful risotto done the right way. I'm going to talk to you about all of the misconceptions, about all the pitfalls, and about all of the nonsense that people say about risotto. Is there anybody here that does not know what risotto is? I find that this is a bit more of a restaurant-y dish. Some people might not know exactly what it is. They might hear of it. Okay? And the second dish that we're going to do once we start baking the risotto, we're also going to be doing a sauteed mushroom and broccoli rabe. Okay, it's going to be really delicious. It's going to be really, really simple. It's going to be super, super yummy. We're going to finish it with fresh herbs. It's going to be excellent. So, everybody, also in the meantime, if you would like to support the cooking stream, if you would like to support what we do here, my goal is to be able to do this full time. My goal is to be able to keep these streams free for everybody to watch. Please support me on Patreon. You can type in !Patreon, okay, or you just scroll down into the About section. That's a really nice way to get support directly to me. Okay, because again, I would love to just keep this accessible for everybody to watch. Okay, so the pressure cooker is almost done releasing pressure. We're about to show off. We're about to uncover this delicious homemade chicken stock. Also, Jack, you have to not type anything else before it. Okay, I'm about to show you my delicious homemade chicken stock. We're going to begin by sauteing the onions. We're going to get them nice and golden. Okay, nice fine dice. It's not going to take that long. Nice and golden. We're going to add in the rice. We're going to toast the rice. Okay, And then we're going to add in the garlic, deglaze it with a nice glug of red wine, add in the chicken stock, let it all cook, finish it with butter, finish it with Parmesan cheese, top it off with the breadcrumbs, and mix in the cream, mix in the shredded cheese, and it's going to be lovely. Do we toast it with zero fat? No, Tarina. We're going to be toasting it, or rather frying it in the olive oil. So not quite at all. Okay. The pressure cooker is just about done releasing the pressure. We are about to show off my gorgeous, delicious homemade chicken stock. It's going to be nice and golden. It's going to be nice and flavorful. I can already smell the aroma. It's infused with the mushroom stems, everybody. Okay, so let's go to the stove. This is now finished releasing pressure. I'm going to go ahead and open this bad boy up. Awesome. And it's not going to look that appealing because, again, we just have this chicken carcass just floating on top. But that is A-okay. We're just going to be cleaning this up in just a second. So, guys, this is my chicken stock. It's really flavorful. It's nice and golden. It's nice and delicious. It's nice and concentrated. And so the only thing that I'm going to do now is we're going to start throwing it out. Also, Jack, I have no idea what you just said to me. I don't know what an iceberg salad. Oh, you said like an iceberg lettuce? Is that what you're trying to say? Okay, guys, the only thing that I'm going to do here is we're going to just start getting rid of some of the solids because we don't need the chicken neck, of course. We don't need the bones anymore. Everybody, please say thank you to Mr. Chicken Bones. I need to hear that from everybody, please and thank you. They've done a wonderful job. They've done a wonderful service for us. And we're not going to necessarily use all this chicken stock for you today, by the way. We're only going to use as much as we need. Let's get rid of the onion. Let's get rid of all these little bones. Using a spider just to be able to scoop it all out. Awesome. And it's getting a little bit heavy, so I'm just going to readjust my grip. Okay. And there you go. Also, Jack, I understand what you're trying to say now, and I don't think that... Jack, these puns, they've gone too far, buddy. They've gone too far. Okay. All of my bay leaves, all of my bones, ow. I just hit myself with a hot boiling mushroom stem, but I think that's okay. It's a metal bowl, so it does get hot. Something you do have to keep in mind. Okay, and now I'm just going to go ahead and set this aside. I'm going to need this guy a little bit later on. Are there practical ways to use the stocked meats? Yeah, you can just nibble on them too. In a practical, no. Enjoyable for you, relatively, sure. You can just nibble on it, and that'll be totally okay. Okay, guys, so the chicken stock, we're not going to need this until we actually get to soaking the rice. So let's talk about this. So everybody, I need your full, undivided attention right now, please and thank you. I need to hear a nice yes, chef. So, here's the number one rule that people mess up when they're making a risotto. Here's the number one rule. They think because it's sauteed rice that you need to use a saute pan. They think that you need to use like a pan, like the kind that you would cook a steak on it. I'm going to tell you right now, that is a huge mistake, and we need to talk about why. We need to talk about the function of a pot versus the function of a little pan. Okay, and I'm also going to be dousing this with some olive oil right now, heating it up on medium-low to get it nice and even. So we'll talk about this really quickly. A generous amount of olive oil, by the way. I want to fry my onions. I want to fry my rice. So let's talk about this, everybody. Okay, a pan. What is the difference between a saucepan or like a pot versus a regular flat pan? Something like this. Two things, a matter of surface area and a matter of the walls on the sides of the pan. With a regular pan like that one, right? Because it is so flat, it has so much more surface area, things evaporate from it a lot quicker. You have a lot more surface area to really get a good sear on things. You have a lot more surface area to really get like a sear on a piece of protein because it really allows for the water to evaporate easier. It's wider, it gives you more space, and it doesn't have the walls to trap in moisture. So people think that they need to make a risotto inside of one of those, and here's what happens. You get inconsistent cooking. You have such a wide surface area, you have granules of rice that are sticking to the bottom, and it's immediately evaporating all of the liquid that you add to it. We make risotto in saucepans. Okay? We make risotto in saucepans because it traps, in the moisture better, and it doesn't have so much surface area that the rice is just squelching on the bottom of the pot. Okay, so it's really, really important. It's really, really essential to keep in mind as we go through today. I'm just gonna get myself a nice little wooden spoon ready to go. We're heating this up on a nice medium low as always so that we get it nice and evenly heated. I do not want to see you make risottos on a stainless steel pan. So why are we even going through the trouble of baking the risotto for today? Why are we going through the trouble of putting breadcrumbs on it and making it nice and crispy? Well, first of all, it's delicious. Second of all, it's a nice way to use up mozzarella. Third of all, it's a much easier way to serve risotto at home. Risotto is a kind of a dish where you're standing there on the stove for 20 minutes, okay, and then you have to serve it immediately, otherwise it gets a little too gluey, gets a little too clumpy. The beauty of a baked risotto is because we're not looking for that like super smooth, creamy texture immediately, but instead we're gonna be getting it nice and crispy. It reheats better. It's easy to serve to a crowd. It's a real people pleaser. You can make the risotto in advance, refrigerate it, and then bake it. That is the beauty of doing a baked crispy risotto. Does everybody understand? Does anybody have any questions for me in the meantime? So we have this lovely, delicious, homemade mushroom chicken stock. We made it ourselves with a lot of flavor, with a lot of love, with a lot of aromatics, guys. This is some serious, serious business. I think I accidentally splashed some into the olive oil, but that's okay. So here's what the order of operations is going to look like. We're going to start off by sauteing the onions in the oil. Why do we do this? First of all, when we do begin getting the onions nice and golden brown, they become a lot more flavorful. We get a little bit of nuttiness. We get them really nice and sweet. The second thing that we actually end up developing is the oil becomes infused with the flavor of those onions. Okay, so we need this amount of oil. This oil is going to become full of the flavor of all of those lovely red onions that we have. Okay? And then we're gonna add the rice and then also fry the rice. We're gonna be toasting raw rice, and we'll talk about that in a second. How does Chef wash its Instant Pot? Good question, Serena. I just do it in the sink. I don't do it in the dishwasher because the dishwasher can warp metal sometimes. Can I tell another joke, please? 30 minutes, Jack. How about that? Set a timer. Okay, so guys, my oil, we're just looking for it to be gently shimmering. We're not looking for it to be smoking hot. Because specifically red onions, and if you're, let's say, using shallots, and you have immediately hot oil, you're going to burn those finely diced shallots, those finely diced red onions. Okay? So medium heat is the key to this. Medium heat, and we're going to be beginning our risotto. Does anybody have any more cooking questions for me in the meantime? Yeah, Cloud9. Jack needed that. Jack needed that cool down for a little bit, okay? It was absolutely well-deserved. Okay, so everybody, the oil is now nice and hot. Let's go ahead, and we're just looking for it to be gently, gently shimmering. Let's go in with all of my red onions. Okay, it's going to immediately sizzle. It's going to drop off in temperature in just a second, I promise. So we add all of it inside, my friends. All of it in, and now we want it to be submerged. Look at that beautiful olive oil. That beautiful olive oil is now coating all of my red onions. And we're stirring it around to make sure that it's all submerged, that it's all inside. And we're going to go in, my friends, with a very nice, generous hit of salt. Also, Sunny Peach Crush, welcome on in. It's lovely to have you. Nice, generous hit of salt, because the goal is to season this in layers, my friends. Season it in layers and everything is going to be perfectly seasoned. Season it all at the end and it's not going to be perfectly seasoned at all. So 2 big, generous hits of kosher salt going directly inside, and now we're just mixing. Mixing it up. Gorgeous, beautiful. And again, guys, the key to this is a medium-low heat. It's first going to collapse. It's going to release its liquid. Red onions, they tend to burn a little bit easier, so you have to be nice and patient with them, okay? You have to be nice and patient. You have to stir them often to ensure that they do not burn. I'm just taking a second to adjust my oven, and I'm preheating my oven to about 350 degrees or so. Okay? 350 degrees, that's all that we're going to need. I'm continuing to, again, we're just cooking the onions down. The sizzling was replaced with a lower end sound. That's how you know the onions have released their own liquid. Okay, they're taking on the salt, and then we're beginning to develop some really, really beautiful color on them. Okay? So, in a lot of Italian cooking, by the way, for a traditional risotto, you wouldn't even see them chop up the shallot. They hate allium so much that they put in like half a shallot into the oil and then they take it out. They put in a little bit of garlic and they take it out. I personally think that is incredibly annoying. I want the taste of alliums. I want it to contribute its sweetness. I want it to basically dissolve into the rest of the risotto. So we want to properly fry all of my beautiful red onions here, finely diced, and we want to make sure that we're scraping up the sides of this pan often. Because if we don't, the red onions that are stuck to the sides of the pan are just going to end up burning. And we do not want burnt onions in the risotto. So, Tarina, you said, sometimes I do a big instant pot of bones for like 4 hours, then take it out and do the cruciferous boys on the stove for like 45 minutes after. Is that too little too late? Honestly, no, that's great. That's a really good idea. I mean, I don't know what you're asking me. Are you saying just like 45 minutes for the cruciferous vegetables? Yeah, that's a really good idea. So that it doesn't get overcooked, so it doesn't get too stinky. Okay, and so again, we're stirring this fairly often because I do not want my red onions to burn. If your red onions burn, it is over. It is over. You have to start it again. This is going to be the base of the risotto. And again, really, really focus on those edges of the pan, my friends. Focus on the edges. Scrape in the edges back inside of the center. Distribute it gently and put it back on in. There you go. Lovely. Okie dokie. So let's go ahead and really quickly get my rice ready to go for today. Guys, for today, I'm only going to be doing a cup of rice. Okay? I'm going to be measuring it out just so I have a good idea of how much I'm using. I normally don't like measuring at home. I think it's typically a waste of time. But for this specific application, I actually think it's going to be quite important. So a cup of rice. Okay? It's going to yield a good amount of risotto, by the way. That's going to be like at least, you know, especially with how much cream and cheese it's going to have. It's going to be a generous, like 4 or 3 portions at the very least. Okay? Probably a little bit more than that. Okay, so my red onions are going. Okay, so let's talk about my rice again. Why do we have to use a short grain rice? Why do we have to use a medium grain rice? Traditionally, you would use carnaroli. Traditionally, you would use arborio rice. The reason why I am using sushi rice is, guess what? Because that's what I have at home. You can use any short grain rice, my friends. Any short grain rice, any medium grain rice. So this is half a cup. Okay, and we're gonna do another half cup of rice. Directly in, maybe a little more, take it off the top. Awesome. And that is now in total 1 cup of rice. But again, I'm going to be purely eyeballing this. We don't have to be too crazy about this sort of thing. I'm going to go back into my onions. Again, we don't want them scorching. We don't want them burning. In fact, I don't need a lot of color on these onions. So I'm just stirring it around really quickly. Making sure especially to focus again. Everybody, focus on the edges of your pan. That is where the onions stick and burn the most. So, guys, take a look. Because of how finely diced my red onions are, they've already begun to get a really beautiful color on it. They're beautifully sizzling away. We don't need that much more cook time. Chef, would you put out a recipe book? No, Sunny Peach Crush. I would put out a cookbook in terms of like a cooking theory book, but I would never ever do a recipe book because I never teach people recipes. I only teach people theory and I teach people techniques. Okay? So if that answers your question. So guys, my red onions, they're going. We're going to stir them around one more time. And again, because of how finely diced they are, they do brown a lot easier, especially in this quantity of oil. So that's why they only needed so little cook time, because we had that much surface area to this amount of red onion. I think that that is going to be perfect for my taste today. And now guys, we're going to go ahead and add in my 1 cup of rice. Again, traditionally, arborio carnaroli. You can use any short grain rice, any medium grain rice. So all of it inside. And the goal is to get it very slightly golden brown. The goal is to get it translucent. So we hit it with a good amount of salt now. And you might be asking me, why are we frying the rice? Why are we toasting the rice? So let's talk about this really quickly. First of all, we are developing some really, really good flavor, my friends. By frying the rice, by toasting it in all of this oil, we are, getting, just like some little toasted grain flavor in there. The second thing that we are doing is we are helping our risotto to become a little bit more granular. By doing this step, by going out of our way to do this step, the rice grains, they tend to hold their shape a lot easier. Or at least so they say. But I find that it does tend to hold its shape in my experience. So we're just stirring it. We're stirring it over a medium heat, guys. Okay, we're making sure not to scorch any of the grains of rice. We're just toasting it at this stage. We're toasting it, we're toasting it, we're toasting it. We're stirring it often to make sure that it is all evenly toasting. And we're looking to get them nice and translucent, if not a little bit golden brown. This is a technique that you see all the time in Latin American cooking. Okay, in Latin American cooking, you would toast the rice, you would fry the rice in some oil before doing a wet cooking method. Or for something like fideo, right, like these, like basically like little pasta strands, they would fry that in some oil as well. It gets it super, super flavorful. It gets it so, so, so delicious. So guys, we're continuing to just fry it. We're continuing to just toast it all. We're making sure that we're stirring it fairly often. Okay? Spreading it all out nice and flat. Just like that, my friends. Okay? It's nicely salted. It's getting nice and toasted. It's going to get nice and delicious. Okay? Keep it going. Keep it stirring. Keep it toasting. I want to get a good, proper toast on this rice, guys. And this might be a lot longer than some Italians do it. But guess what? I like that good, good, delicious, proper toast. Okay. Just a few more minutes, guys. And this is going to be like a red risotto because we're going to be doing it with like red wine and the red onions inside of there. Okay? So keep it going. Does anybody have any cooking questions for me in the moment? Chat, did it add the rice to the fan and sliced onion bits? So it is the onion and the olive oil and the rice at the stage, Tarina. Okay, so it's all frying, it's all toasting up, it's looking super, super good at the moment. Okay, let's spread it out nice and flat. Spread it out, spread it out, spread it out. Awesome. Okay, there's some grains that are like almost like slightly sticking to the edges of the pan. I think that that is going to be perfect for our purposes today, guys. Okay, and now let's go in with the garlic. We do the garlic last because the garlic has the highest chance, the highest capacity to burn of all of the different ingredients that we have. So we do the garlic last. We're making sure to break it up, guys. We're gonna hit this with another thing of salt. Okay, because I want to make sure that my rice is seasoned up evenly before we do the wet ingredients. That really, really helps to make sure that it's evenly seasoned instead of like little pockets of salt or anything, okay? So a little bit of salt one more time. And we're not going to probably need more salt because the Parmesan itself is going to be really, really salty. Well, not very salty, but it's going to be quite salty. Okay, guys, and now that my garlic is toasted, my rice is toasted, my onions are toasted, we are going to add in some lovely red wine. Traditionally, they do white wine. We're adding in red wine in this case, and a very nice glug goes directly inside. A glug goes in, and we're stirring it around, and we're deglazing the pan, my friends. We are unsticking any of the stuck starches, any bits that are stuck to the bottom of the pan, we are unsticking it. We are deglazing it with the wet ingredient here. And now we're just moving it around, we're spreading it out, moving it around, and it's going to soak it up, and then once the pan is dry, we will begin dousing it in wine. So everybody, there is a really, really huge misconception about risotto that I need all of you to pay attention to. I need to have everybody say yes, chef, to me, please and thank you. The biggest misconception that I see with risotto is that it needs to be stirred constantly. Also, Jack, I know. Okay, I got it. The biggest misconception with risotto is that it needs to be stirred constantly. Guys, that is complete nonsense. You stir your risotto constantly, and what's going to happen is it's never going to cook in time, and it's going to become completely gluey. It's going to become too gluey. It's going to become too thick. The goal of a risotto is for it to be nice and creamy, but the goal isn't for it to become gluey. And so that's what happens, guys. They think, oh, a risotto, you need to be stirring every 5 seconds. And they add in so much chicken stock. They do a quart of chicken stock, and they end up with a gluey mush. Okay? So all we're going to do, guys, here's the thing. It's soaked up the wine. I want you all to watch what happens next. We take some chicken stock. We pour it inside. We're going to do about 2 ladles at a time, and we stir it in. All we're doing is we're just stirring the chicken stock in, and we're going to let it absorb it. I'm just stirring it to make sure that I have no clumps in there. And we're doing this, my friends, on a low-medium heat. You want to have your chicken stock be warm so it doesn't immediately cool it down each time. This was fresh out of the pressure cooker. It's still nice and hot. We worked out all of the clumps, and now, guys, we let it go on a low-medium heat. And we let it slowly absorb the stock, my friends. We do not stir it every 30 seconds. We don't stir it every 5 seconds. Can I please get another yes, chef? You see this all the time. I think this is maybe Food Network's fault. Because Food Network, for a certain period of time, were the ones that are like, oh, risotto, it's the king of all rice dishes. You need to be stirring it all the time. It's what makes a really amazing chef. Guys, Gently, gently cooking the risotto is the key to the perfect texture. Guys, how many times have you been to a restaurant and you've had a risotto that's like a hockey puck? It's almost like a hockey puck. It is so sticky and it is so gloopy and it is gluey. How many times has that happened to all of you? Has that happened to you before? Okay, that's not what a risotto should be like. A risotto needs to be creamy. A risotto is supposed to be smooth and creamy and really, really delicate. You're supposed to be able to make out the separate grains from the rest of the liquid. They're not supposed to become one mush. People over stir the risotto, they attack it with super high heat, and they end up with a gluey hockey puck. Okay, and so we're just waiting for it to absorb all of this liquid, and then we're going to go in with the next batch of said liquid. That's right. So it needs to be nice and creamy. It's supposed to be nice and smooth, my friends. Okay, not sure if I've ever had a risotto. Well, in Salvaris, it's a very beautiful dish. It's so aromatic, it's so delicious, it's creamy, it's full of cheese and butter. Speaking of which, we do need to get the butter out, which is just going to be added in towards the end of the cooking process itself. So guys, again, low, medium heat, or even a low heat would be ideal here. And now we're stirring it in, just again, to make sure that nothing is sticking, that nothing is squelching on the bottom of the pot here. And we're flipping it. Okay, we're moving around the sides of the pan. And now that the pot looks mostly dry again, chat, what do? We hit it with a fresh dose of our incredible homemade chicken mushroom stock. And it's okay if I got a little bit of chicken skin in there. I don't really care that much. Okay, low, medium heat. We pour in the stock. I'm doing like 1.5 ladles at a time. We're doing it incrementally. Okay. And we don't add it in all at once again, because if we add it in all at once, it's all just going to congeal and it's all just going to become a little too granular. Because by stirring it and by agitating it, we're going to still get that really like creamy sauce on the outside of the risotto. And guys, we're just letting it bubble away. We're just letting it cook away. This is a process. This is going to take about 20 minutes or so, okay? So we're in it for the long haul. In the meantime, I'm just going to be extracting all of my remaining bones from this chicken stock just to make my life a little bit easier later on. Just so it's out of sight and it's out of mind and I don't have to worry about it. Nice and easy. There you go. Get rid of all those little scraps, all those little tiny bits. And we're letting it bubble, my friends. We're letting it cook. We're going to let it absorb that amount of chicken stock. We do not want to be stirring it constantly. You stir it constantly and it will be a disaster. I promise you that. Stir it constantly and you're going to get that hockey puck. You're going to get that gluey mess instead of something very creamy, something very delicate, something very, very delicious. In fact, I'm not even going to stir it at this stage because I just know it's not sticking, it's not burning. I'm just scraping off the sides of the pan. Okie dokie. Some Parmesan as a little snack. I love Parmesan so much. Okay, in the meantime, let's also go ahead and get some of the butter prepped for today. I know we could probably just stop there with just like the regular cooking of the risotto, but it'll be so good with the butter and the cheese. Oh, and then baked in. I have some Kerrygold butter just because I like it a lot. We're gonna do like 2 tablespoons or so. So the final stage of the risotto cooking process is called the creaming stage. And that is when we basically kill the heat on it. We add in the butter, we add in the cheese, and then we just basically slowly fold that in and we let the rice essentially rest. So a little bit of butter, a little bit of cheese. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this back on into the fridge. Oof, today's gonna be a long stream, guys, because we're just not even close to being done for today. Is everybody in it for the long haul? I wanna hear another yes, chef, please, and thank you. So, how do you avoid brown butter from burning? That's a really good question, Jack. You avoid brown butter by burning. It's like a 3-stage cooking process. The first stage is the evaporation, and then the milk solids sort of like float to the bottom and different proteins to the top. Go find the Serious Eats article on making brown butter. So guys, now we take it and we stir it up. So do you see, guys, how many videos have you seen of people making risotto where they just stir it every 5 seconds? Do you see how gentle I'm being? Do you all see how delicate I'm being with this bad boy? We're doing low medium heat. We're not attacking it with heat. We're not immediately evaporating all of the liquid. We're letting all of the flavor just properly, beautifully concentrate. And we're going to cook this until the rice isn't rock hard anymore. Okay? Also, of course, I've had vinaigrette before Suriname. Absolutely, I did. Don't love it. Not my favorite, especially growing up. I kind of hated it. You know, in recent time, I've come to appreciate it a little bit more. Okay, we're going to do another ladle of chicken stock all the way in. And once again, we just stir it inside. Just stir it inside gently. We're not rupturing the grains. We're not destroying anything. We're just making sure that nothing is stuck, nothing is sticking, and this is just going to be a process. And as you guys can see, the rice, it is swelling up properly. It's getting really, really beautiful. Okay? It's soaking up all of the chicken stock. It's soaking up the wine. This risotto is beginning to take shape, my friends. Look at it. It is nice and red. And again, is a red risotto super traditional? No. Because again, you do it with white wine and, you know, you don't do it with red onions or anything. Can chef call this dish risotto rosso? Sure. Risotto rosso al forno, I suppose, right? I forgot. What's the word for oven in Italian? Something like that. Something like that. Okay, and this would be a really good time to ask me any and all cooking questions that you may have, because we gotta kill some time. We gotta cook this risotto, my friends. We gotta slowly and beautifully and properly infuse it. Okay, and I'm just gonna get this pan out because this is where, this pan. This is where I'm going to be doing the mushrooms and the broccoli rabe later on. So that is just, I'll just keep that in there for now. Actually, it's taking up a little too much space. So guys, gently cooking. That is the key to a risotto. But yes, a lot of people, they just stir it all the time. They end up with this gluey mess. They do a high heat, all their stock evaporates. They have way too much chicken stock in there. By doing a low heat, we're just letting everything properly infuse. Our risotto is beginning to take form. I can see that starting to stick a little bit on the bottom here. So I'm scraping up the bottom here, guys. I'm scraping it up with a spoon. Right, that is all of the starches just sticking to the bottom of the pot. You want to clean it up, clean it up, clean it up, clean it up. Okay, let it cook again. And once it's absorbed all of that stock, we will go in incrementally with the next batch of stock, my friends. My butter and my Parmesan is ready. I kind of wish I had one more thing to do in the meantime, but that's okay. That's fine. It happens to the best of us, I suppose. Oh, actually, I could probably take out my mozzarella. I could take out my heavy cream because we're going to be folding that in, and it's going to be incredible. Okay. It's going, guys. It's going. It's cooking. It's doing its thing. Jack, I don't think I dropped anything. I don't think that's fair. I didn't drop anything. And also, guys, the reason why we're stirring it so often, the reason why we're stirring it all together is to also ensure that the grains of rice are evenly cooked. One thing that happens often is, in cooking rice in a traditional method, the bottom grains, they tend to get a little crispy, and the top ones, they tend to be a little underdone almost. And by cooking it in this way, we do ensure that we don't have any crispy bits, we don't have any raw bits, that everything is getting nice and leveled out. Everything is getting nice and evenly cooked. So, this is going, this is all happening, it's looking lovely, it's looking wonderful, it's beginning to sizzle as we open it up. So that's telling us, especially with how starchy and sticky it's getting at the bottom, guys, this would be a good time to add in another ladle or two of some stock. And then we're going to begin tasting it to see how far along has it actually come. Resist the urge, my friends. Resist the urge to crank up the heat. Cranking up the heat. I need to hear a yes, chef, from everybody listening. If you crank up the heat, it's not going to make it cook faster. All you're going to end up doing is making the rice on the bottom begin to squelch and stick, and you're going to evaporate your existing water, and all of that bubbling and boiling is going to destroy the grains of rice on the outside. Gentle, gentle, gentle cooking is the key to a beautiful risotto. People abuse risotto so often. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to properly treat it. Okay? Gentle, gentle cooking every single day of the week. Rice, by the way, I want to say this right now. Rice doesn't necessarily cook faster in boiling water versus warm water. Okay? All that you kind of end up doing is scorching the bottom of it. It takes time for it to actually penetrate the grain of rice itself. It will not cook faster if you turn up that heat. Okay, I just want to give it a little taste. I want to taste for salinity. I want to see how it's doing. Okay? I hope it's not too salty. I think it should be good though. Oh my God. Even at this stage, the rice not close to being fully done, okay? We're looking for a slight bite to the rice, almost like an al dente, okay, on the pasta. But that is really good. That is remarkable. That is so, so delicious, my friends. We're just stirring it up again, and I'm again scraping up the bottom. Scraping up the bottom, I'm scraping up the sides. Moving everything around and making sure nothing is sticking at all on the bottom of my lovely pan here. Guys, that is delicious. As it is, that is incredible, and it is still not even close to being done for today. Oh, actually, I have a really good baking dish. Why don't I just use my ceramic baking dishes for this today, guys? Why was I gonna use this aluminum one? Wait a second. I have the literal ideal vessel for this baked risotto, and I almost forgot about it. How could I do such a thing? Guys, for today, I'm gonna be using these lovely ceramic ones. These bad boys right here. Take a look. These guys, this is what I'm gonna be baking the risotto on. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be delicious. It's gonna be nice and crispy. Oh, it's gonna be beautiful. Like how we did the baked mac and cheese on them way back when. That's how we're gonna do it. Okay, let's head back to the stove, guys. I can hear how much it's bubbling away. I can hear how much it's boiling. We're checking the bottom. We check the bottom and we flip it all around. We give it a little bit more of an aggressive stir now. We can be comfortable. We can be confident to do such a thing, okay? We give it a little stir, and we're letting it just gently and beautifully absorb all of that chicken stock. Guys, that has so much flavor as it is. That is so flavorful. That is so delicious. Everybody should be doing a baked risotto, as far as I'm concerned. Now, as far as doing regular risottos at home, do it to impress somebody. This is the meal, this specific dish. This is what I do to impress women. This specific one right here. Because a really good risotto, my friends, when it's freshly made, when it's luxurious, when it's beautifully done, there is nothing quite like it. And let me tell you something right now. I need you all to listen to this, because I have a rant to go on. I have a rant to go on right now. Okay? Restaurants, in particular, mess up risotto so much more than a home cook does. Because in a restaurant setting, this amount of active cook time is a little bit unreasonable. So what they do is they par-cook the rice, they pre-boil it. And then the people that are on the line, they don't know what they're doing. So 9 times out of 10, you get a risotto at a restaurant and it's just not good. A risotto, it's beautiful when it is fresh. Restaurants do not do this dish well unless they're known for it, unless it's a really good Italian restaurant, unless it's a really good seafood restaurant. They have a really good seafood risotto. Most restaurants make a risotto that sucks. So most people, they have a fairly kind of whatever connotation with risotto. They just think it's gonna be fine. You make this for somebody. You make it the way that I'm showing you. You will impress them every single day of the week. It is luxurious. It tastes really special. It uses such simple ingredients, okay? We're adding in some more chicken stock now, my friends. We're adding it all in and we're stirring it up. This is an incredibly impressive dish, and it is something that everybody will be able to universally enjoy. Okay, we stir it up, we stir it up, we stir it up. Just making sure that I have none of those dried clumps on the bottom. And it is just slowly soaking, it is slowly soaking all of it up. Okay. Okay, where is my phone? I need to check a certain something. Unless they're known for it, is a good rule of thumb, yes. But as far as restaurant dishes go, guys, this is the one that has most consistently disappointed me when I've ordered it anywhere, quite frankly. If you order it and it shows up 5 minutes later, there is something shady going on. Yeah, because this kind of a dish, guys, it takes 20 to 30 minutes to really like kind of do it. And so a pre-cooked risotto, it's just not the same. It is just not the same at all. It is gluey, it is clumpy. You know, it's just not what you want at all. Beautiful. Look at that, guys. It's getting nice and viscous. I'm scraping up all the stuff from the sides, scraping it up, putting it back into the rice. There you go. That's what it should begin to look like. So guys, as you can tell, as this cooks, the white grain inside of the rice is beginning to disappear. That little white grain is an indication of its doneness. You don't want it to completely go away. It completely goes away, and you have overcooked risotto. Congratulations. So delicious. It's getting there, my friends. The texture. Risotto takes time and skill, not skill jack. Guys, do you see how easy this is? I'm teaching you how to look at the risotto. I'm teaching you, hey, you're looking at the grain of rice to test for your doneness. We're tasting it as we go. I'm teaching you everything every step of the way. I am teaching you all how to feel a risotto, how to understand it, how to understand what's possibly going on here. Okay? So anybody can do this, and I truly mean anybody. You follow my instructions, and you can do this with any type of wine. You can do this with any type of stock. No tarina, no lemon in this one, although that would be a nice touch. I'm just teaching you all how to understand the risotto, how to be able to properly feel it. Anybody can do this, anybody can cook, okay? We're continuing to just stir it around. It's absorbing the stock, guys. It is beginning to get closer and closer to its final stage. Look at that. And I'm actually wondering, should I slightly undershoot it so that when it bakes, maybe not. Okay. Oof. So sorry, I just have to check on something. My apologies. Okay, how is it looking now? Oh, it's getting there, my friends. It is getting there, and it is getting there soon. Let's do, I think, maybe one more ladle of stock, and then I think that's when we should probably call it on the actual amount of liquid for something like this, because again, I'm looking for this to be nice and creamy. I'm not looking for this to be too gluey, too much water, too much liquid part, and it ends up being too gluey and too starchy, okay? So that is not what we are looking for at all. Mix it through. It's getting there, guys. It's getting there. It's almost done. We're just mixing in all of the grains and scraping up whatever is on the bottom, and we're letting it cook. That's what people say to me. Let it cook. Whoa. Let's have a little taste. So good. So good. Okay. I didn't understand so recently that this kind of homemade food is available to people of my class. So Ben Zhukov, I have a thought for you. I have something to say to you. So that thought, you're absolutely correct. It is available. This kind of food is available to people of all, backgrounds. There's a lot of restaurant-y dishes that have a lot of allure to them because of the name, because of the connotation, because of the history, that are actually not that good in most restaurants. In fact, I'm going to say something right now. Very few restaurants, I think, actually operate out of good faith and integrity. Most of these restaurant groups are just, capitalists with a lot of money that are like looking for a little investment project, okay? And they have a completely uninspired menu with no philosophy whatsoever, and they're constantly burdened by the logistics of what it means to cook in a restaurant. I think there's so few good, meaningful restaurants out there, my friends. Maybe 5 to 10% of the restaurants that actually exist make good food with good integrity, with good intentions to serve somebody. Okay, be it like really, really cheap places where anybody can go, or really, really high-level fine dining places. Most fine dining in the United States isn't actually all that good. It's a lot more mediocre than you would expect, guys. Okay? They just have the allure of it being a fine dining place. Especially in a lot of like these smaller towns, smaller cities, right? They'd say, oh, this is the nicest restaurant in town. And it actually just straight up kind of sucks. It just kind of sucks. Okay? Oof, beautiful. This risotto, my friends, it is getting there. It is nice and creamy. It is nice and delicious looking. Let's go in with one more ladle of that stock right inside. Yeah, let's do about that much. And then we'll taste it, and then we might kill the heat on it in just a second. That is what I'm looking for, guys. Look at that. Creamy and smooth, but not too gluey. That is what a risotto should look like. Let's give it a little taste because I'm not looking, okay, for it to be overcooked. How do I know what's an inspired menu? Delicious. In fact, perfect. We shut off the heat. I'll answer your question in just a second. Guys, the risotto is done. We got out most of the bite. It still has a little bit of a bite in the very center of it. And that's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking to cook it al dente, essentially. So here's what we do, my friends. This is called the creaming stage of the risotto. We take the risotto, we've turned off the heat. We turn off the heat. And now we add in the butter, and we add in the cheese, and we just put a lid on it. All we do is we stop the cooking, and we put a lid on it. And let's talk about what's happening here and why we're doing this. So, all rice, after you cook it, needs to rest for a given amount of time. That is so that it gets evenly cooked all the way throughout. You make rice, you fluff it, you let it rest. So that's what we're doing. Second of all, if we add in the butter immediately and just mix it into the hot risotto, it's all going to melt. Instead of we get like that really like thick half melted butter taste. Third of all, the Parmesan. If you add Parmesan into something that's too hot, it's going to separate and get really, really stringy instead of beautifully melting in. So by just adding all of this into the pot like so, and by hitting it with a lid and letting it sit for just a few minutes, my friends, we're letting the butter slowly melt, we're letting the cheese slowly melt, we're letting the rice rest, and then after 3 to 5 minutes, we're just going to mix it in and then begin the rest of the risotto. How do I know what's an inspired menu, Melania Obama, you ask me? So, an inspired menu, here's the number one thing you're looking for. You are not looking for massive, massive menus. Okay? That's the first thing. If a restaurant has a massive menu, think of something like a diner menu, although sometimes that can be appealing. The reality is, a lot of things come in pre-cooked. A lot of things are done way ahead of time. That is one thing that you're looking out for. Second thing that you're looking out for, everybody, I need you all to tap in. I need to make sure that everybody's listening. I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef, from everybody watching, please, and thank you. Here is my potentially controversial, my potentially hot take here. Okay? So I need you all to just stick with me while I get through this thought. If you see a menu that completely varies and jumps around, even if it's a small menu, if it jumps around in cuisine and culture, calls itself Pan-Asian or fusion, that is a note of suspicion. I'm going to tell you why. Normally, really good fusion restaurants come from a chef that has extensive background in one cuisine and then maybe grew up in another cuisine, right? They come from like certain ethnic background and they were trained another way and they blend the two of them together. So it comes in with a very personal perspective. Most fusion restaurants, most Pan-Asian restaurants are just people throwing garbage onto the menu. Poorly done, none of it done with real intention, none of it done with real theory, none of it done with real thinking. So if you see a menu that advertises, and if you just look around and you see ingredients from different cultures all over the place, 9 times out of 10, it is not being done with integrity. It is being done by somebody completely careless, completely reckless, that does not know what they are doing. So really good, meaningful fusion comes from somebody that has a very informed perspective and then can see ways that they can integrate these two cultures together. Somebody throwing around a million different things on a menu that seem completely unrelated probably has no idea what they're doing. So that's how you would tell. That's another thing that I would look out for, really, by looking at the menu. So small menu, and we're not looking for it to be completely all over the place unless it has a reason to, unless you know something about the chef, right? Unless you know something about the restaurant. Okay, so that's my rant there. Did I read the joke? Jack, I saw it. I chose to ignore it. That's okay, though. Oof. All right. So, my friends, we are just about done with the risotto. And now it is time for us to finish it. Hurt? Well, that's okay. Jack, gotta make better jokes, buddy. Okay, So my friends, take a look. The cheese, the butter, it's all on top. And now we basically just mix it all in. The starch of the rice is going to naturally help stabilize it. I might have added the cheese in a little too soon after I took it off the heat. Now we mix it in. We mix it, we whip it in. We mix it, mix it, mix it. There you go. Guys, this is what a properly, beautifully finished risotto looks like. We're creaming it in, we're creaming it in. We're melting the butter, my friends. We're melting the cheese. Look at that risotto. That is gorgeous. You can eat that as it is. That is just a delicious risotto by itself. Look at that. Gorgeous. Beautiful. Thick and creamy and rich. That is exactly what I wanted to see, my friends. Look at that. Look at her go. That is so delicious. That is so good. And now, we're gonna be combining it with the mozzarella cheese. Mixing it with the mozzarella cheese, and we're gonna be baking it, guys. This is where we take it to another level. So that risotto is ready to go. We have my lovely mozzarella cheese here. I have some cubes. I have some shredded, okay? And now I'm going to pour in a good amount of some heavy cream inside, okay? And this is just going to make sure that it stays nice and velvety when it cooks and it doesn't turn into a hockey puck. Is this traditional Italian cooking? Absolutely not. So all I'm gonna do is I'm just going to mix it. I'm going to make sure that my mozzarella cheese and my cream, it's basically like a risotto gratin, absolutely. So I'm just going to make sure that my mozzarella is all broken up a little bit. Okay, and then we're gonna add the nice risotto inside. It's okay if you're adding it hot. The cheese is going to melt slightly, but that's okay. That is kind of the point here. So guys, let's get all of the risotto mixed in with the cheese. Look at it, beautiful and creamy and rosy. That is exactly what it should look like. And I'm going to keep a little bit in the pan just for me to snack on after. But right now, guys, we got bigger fish to fry. We have to mix this in. So what cheese did I use? Well, I finished the risotto with Parmesan the classic way, but right here is all mozzarella. And mozzarella is not traditional in this because we're doing a baked risotto today. And I'm taking a lot of inspiration from like an arancini. Okay? There you go. And that is exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for it to be a little too loose. We're looking for it to be a little too loose. We're looking for it to be a little too slippery. Okay? Have you ever tried using pecorino inside of one? I'm sure that would be good. Pecorino, yes. Inside of a risotto, no, because I never really buy pecorino like that. Okay, so guys, that's perfect. You see we have little clumps of cheese. That's exactly what we want. That's exactly what we're looking for. So I'm gonna put this behind me. And now we have to move. We have to act now. Let me go ahead and get out my lovely clay baking sheets. Look at these things, huh? These things are gorgeous. And now, guys, let's go ahead and load them up with my lovely, delicious risotto and mozzarella. All of it directly inside. We're gonna lay it out beautifully into each tray, into each little sheet. Look at it. Nice and creamy, and guys, it's full of cheese at the moment. So this makes a lot of food. I don't know if you guys can tell, this is a very, very big portion of each. This is maybe like, you know, this is a lot of portions. It's very calorie dense because, guys, this is supposed to be a treat. It's supposed to be rich. It's supposed to be decadent. Embrace it. Love it for what it is. But we are not done yet, my friends. We are not done. We have one last thing to add on in. Remember my breadcrumb mixture. Remember this bad boy? Okay, we need to douse that with a little bit of olive oil. Okay, and we gotta mix it up, and then we gotta go ahead and just spread it on top. It's the breadcrumbs with the olive oil and the cheese inside. Guys, I just wanna eat this as it is. But we gotta be patient. We need to be patient. So a little bit of olive oil, I'm just gonna add it indirectly to the breadcrumbs, so that just helps it brown up nicely inside of the oven. Okay, so I'm just tossing it. Tossing it, tossing it, tossing it. Tossing it all together with the olive oil, with the Parmesan and the black pepper. My lovely, delicious seasoned breadcrumbs. Okay? Okay? And now we're just going to go ahead and just put this directly on top. And I don't really need it to all be completely covered. I think this might be a little bit much surface area for me. So we'll just make do with what we have here. Let me see if shaking it on would be a little bit better. Gentle, gentle little shakes just to get it all. Oh, that was not a gentle shake at all. That is exactly what I was trying to avoid happening. So let's do it from up high and let's get it all nicely covered. As much as we reasonably can with the breadcrumbs. And I don't need too much breadcrumbs, guys. I don't need like a crazy amount in this. Right? Because to me, it's all about the risotto itself. Okay? And let's do this batch right in here. Awesome. I'll try to spread it out to the edges as much as possible. There you go. Guys, look at this thing. And it's still not done. 350 degrees for about 30 minutes or so. That's what I'm feeling for this bad boy. We're doing a nice low heat because I want the cheese to melt. I want the rice to soak up the cream. And I don't want my breadcrumbs to burn before that happens, okay? So that's why we're doing 350. Guys, look at this. Look at this. Do we mess around? Chat, do we mess around? I want to hear a nice no, chef. Please and thank you. We do not mess around in this kitchen. We take it serious. We are so serious about everything that we do here. This risotto, this baked risotto, guys, it is some serious business. I was getting a lovely little sheet tray. Just out, just about. All ready to go for us at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and quickly do away with a couple things. Make a little bit of space for ourselves. Whew. Okay. My incredible, my lovely, my delicious, my decadent risotto. We do not mess around on the stream. That's right. On this cooking show. Guys, let's go ahead and grab each one. We're going to pop it on this and into a 350 degree oven. I don't want to cover it with foil. I don't think it really needs it, as long as we keep it at 350 degrees. Whew. There we go, my friends. 350 degrees for 30 minutes or so. Let's get it on. Let's get it happening. It's going to be rich, it's going to be sumptuous, it's going to be creamy, and it, above all else, is going to be delicious. Are you all excited about this? I want to hear a nice yes, chef, please and thank you. And in the meantime, we are going to do the mushrooms using the wet cooking method. So guys, risotto in the oven, kitchen timer for 30 minutes going, mushrooms on a cold pan. And we'll talk about this, and we'll talk about this in just a second. We'll talk about why we're doing this in this exact way. Okay, mushrooms in a cold pan. And I'm just going to go ahead and cover up my pan with a little bit of water. We'll talk about this in just a second, guys, so don't be worried. Don't fret. Do not be confused. Do not be afraid. I promise everything is going to get explained shortly. Okay, water in the mushrooms. Just enough to basically cover them up halfway through. And now I'm going to take a second to put away a couple of things, and we'll do a bit of a recap session. We have a lot of things on the agenda. My kitchen, a bit of a mess at the moment, because we kind of ended up rushing through the last few parts, but that's okay. We'll just put things away as needed. Okay? Whew. Guys, I'm really excited about this risotto. And we do have a little bit of risotto left over inside of that pot that I kind of just want to myself at the moment. So good. So cheesy. That is lovely. That, my friends, is wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful cooking. Let me just go ahead and give myself a little plate of that, and then we'll do a bit of a recap session. I'm so glad that I left myself some risotto just to have as it is. Okay. Oof. That is so good. Guys, that is unbelievably delicious. So, everybody, let's do a bit of a recap session. We currently have my crispy baked risotto in the oven We made a homemade chicken mushroom stock. We sauteed red onion and a bunch of olive oil. We fried the rice inside of it, added the garlic, added in red wine, seasoned it up really good. We slowly added in stock, and we finished it with butter and Parmesan cheese. We mixed it with some mozzarella. We mixed it with some heavy cream. We topped it off with some lovely breadcrumbs with olive oil and black pepper and some more Parmesan cheese. And now, my friends, we're gonna be working on some mushrooms and broccoli rabe as a very nice proteiny vegetable side dish. I have here some of my risotto. Beautiful. It's cooled down a little bit, so it's so sticky. But, guys. That is unbelievably delicious. You wish this was you. You wish this was you right now. But it's not. It could be you. You gotta go make this. Okay? Delicious, cheesy, little bite to the guy still. That is incredible. Oh, wow. Love it. And I'm gonna throw that into the dishwasher. I taught you all so many different fundamentals about a risotto, and now we have to do the vegetable component. You're gonna go make some food? Well, I'm happy that I could inspire you by this. I'm happy that I was able to have such an effect on you and everybody, of course, because we are cooking at home. We have to, as always, clean as we go. So guys, let's talk about this really quick. We're doing the wet mushroom cooking method. I'm gonna need everybody's attention. Is everybody watching? I wanna hear a nice resounding yes, chef, please and thank you. I need everybody's attention for this one because this is gonna be a very important lecture. So, mushrooms are particularly annoying to cook. How many of you have had this experience? You've wanted to saute mushrooms. You heat up a pan, you put some olive oil or whatever oil in there, you put the mushrooms in, and it sizzles for a second. And then it soaks up the oil. And then after it soaks up the oil, it starts releasing water. And then you're like, wait a second, all of the oil is gone, my mushrooms are greasy, and my pan is dry. How many of you has that happened to? Okay, I just want to know. I want to know if this is a common experience at all. And so we need to talk about the very structure of the mushroom itself, my friends. A mushroom is essentially super saturated with water. When you heat it up and you cause it to collapse, it releases a bunch of that water and then it soaks some water back on up. The reason we do this wet cooking method, we first collapse the texture of the mushrooms in some water as just a nice way to evenly distribute the heat instead of using oil. It releases its liquid and then it soaks up the water. And then we naturally evaporate all of the liquid in the bottom of the pan. And also, thank you so much for the gifted sub, Serena. Thank you, thank you. And by doing it that way, my friends, we get the mushrooms cooked down, we get them stable, and they won't soak up any more oil. And that is the beauty of cooking mushrooms in this way using the water method. We start them off in a cold pan, we start them off with some water. The goal is just to collapse the mushrooms. The goal is to get them to release their liquid, guys. And once they've fully released it, we then evaporate out all of the rest of the liquid. And then, once that liquid is gone, we add in the oil and we add in the broccoli rabe and we begin the proper, beautiful sautéing stage. So it's gonna be really, really easy. It's gonna be really simple. Okay? The only other thing that we need to do in the meantime is we have to prepare my blanched broccoli rabe for sautéing. So guys, as you may remember, we blanched all of this beautiful broccoli rabe. It's steam dried, and now we just gotta go ahead and chop it up into bite-sized pieces, the likes of which that we would like to end up eating in our final product today. Okay, so think about the size of the broccoli rabe. I'm going to try to go ahead and just get it to size. I'm gonna try to get it similarly cut up as the mushrooms. Okay, so something like this, something like this, something like this. And I think that should be good. That's about like the size of the mushrooms once they cook. And so canned mushrooms, they do kind of suck, Ekman. They're a little bit cheaper, but you can still use a canned mushroom. They're just really good for soups. So how the liquid is released into the water? Well, look, KSSB, the water level is actively increasing. The water is turning brown from the mushroom liquid, and the water level is rising. Chef, how do you cook with asparagus and how do you prepare it? Jack, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really cook with a lot of asparagus. I haven't cooked with asparagus in quite some time, actually. So I don't think I'd be able to really tell you. I would like to cook with asparagus sometime soon. Maybe that would be like a fun thing for me to do sometime soon. But at the moment, I don't really cook with asparagus like that. Love broccoli rabe. Super bitter, but it's gonna be really delicious. All my broccoli rabe ready to go, guys. And now, again, we're just boiling the hell out of my mushrooms. We're in the boiling stage. You can see that the water level has really increased. The mushrooms are beginning to sink down. And now, guys, the goal is to evaporate this liquid. The goal is to evaporate it. Just stir it around. Keep it moving. Keep it boiling. Can I please get a yes, chef? Please and thank you. Okay, you can see in real time how much water has leached out. That, my friends, is all from the mushrooms. That is why we do this wet cooking method first and foremost. I'm just taking a second now just to wipe down my station, just to get everything nice and clean because we have a bit of downtime. I'm checking on my breadcrumbs, making sure that they're not squelching. They seem to be looking good though. Just throwing my cutting board into the dishwasher, putting away my kettle as well, because we're not going to need that either. Because remember, everybody, when you cook at home, you must, and it is not a question, it is not a preference, you absolutely have to clean as you go. When you cook at home, you don't want to be left with a mess at the end of the day. Okay, so we clean up when we have a little bit of downtime, just like this. This is what I like to call passive time. So when we were stirring the risotto, we would call that active time because we were actively doing it and we couldn't put our attention anywhere else. The mushrooms are cooking, the food is in the oven. This, my friends, is passive time, excuse me. Because nothing needs to be actively babysat at this stage. Nothing is gonna burn, nothing is gonna boil over. All that I'm really doing is I'm occasionally just checking on Mr. Mushroom, seeing, hey, how's he doing? Guys, you can tell the water is beginning to really truly evaporate here. The water is getting a lot more dense. That's all the proteins, all the flavor from the mushrooms really condensing. And once the pan is dry, we'll add in some oil and we will be sauteing the hell out of these mushrooms with the broccoli rabe. And it's going to be delicious. It's going to be aromatic. It's going to be incredible. Okay. Continuing just to put some things away. Continuing to clean up. Awesome. Favorite type of mushroom? That's a good question. I love morel mushrooms a lot. I love oyster mushrooms. Maybe a shiitake. I think why I love shiitakes is because they're so cheap and they're so flavorful. I love shiitake mushrooms in a hot pot and how juicy they get. What we'll use the water for? Jack, we're going to cook down the water. All this water is just going to evaporate. Okay? But guys, for me, the shiitake mushroom, that is peak. A shiitake is cheap and it has so much flavor. I love the texture. I love how juicy it is. Oh, incredible stuff. So we're just evaporating, my friends. We're just boiling all of this out and then we will enter the sautéing stage. Getting it done, getting it happening. Look at all of it go. Yeah, dried shiitakes especially. Oh, dried shiitakes are incredible. When they're reconstituted, they just soak up whatever we put them in, especially like inside of like a hot pot. They are amazing. Those guys I can never get enough of. Okay, oops, sorry for hitting the microphone. I apologize for that. I'm just putting away my thing of rice into my cabinet. Okay, awesome. What techniques are used to prepare the mushrooms to saute? Well, KSSB, let me tell you. Let me surprise you right now, actually. In some restaurants, they do just separately boil the mushrooms and then they take them out and they do that. But let me tell you something, KSSB. They don't do this. They just call them sauteed mushrooms and they cook them in that awful method. Or they add in so much oil, more than the mushrooms can actually absorb, and you get these really greasy mushrooms. That's what most people do. That's what other techniques are used to properly, quote unquote, saute mushrooms. Most people are doing it wrong. That's what I want to say. So, the mushrooms are going. The water is now evaporating, guys. You can tell that the water level is decreasing. The mushrooms have soaked up as much liquid as they could possibly need. They're fully reconstituted. They're nice and juicy. And now the goal is just to get rid of as much water as possible. Because KSSB, remember, at the end of the day, most people don't actually really know what they're doing when it comes to food. And I know that might sound really negative, but it's true. Not me, though. Most people, they repeat things that they have been taught. Okay? They do things a certain way, and they don't observe what they're actively doing. So that would be a little incorrect, KSSB. A good cooking method for mushrooms would be to say grill them, right? Because grilling them, you can cook them with heat. That rice is good. You can cook them with heat without necessarily needing to use any other kinds of lubricants. So grilling mushrooms is a very nice way to really go about it. But when it comes to sauteed mushrooms, people for a long time, the good method would be to pre-boil them. You boil them in advance, you lose a lot of flavor that way, and then you add them into the pan. But by doing it this way, guys, we get all of that mushroom flavor. You see that brown liquid? That is essentially mushroom stock. All of that flavor is being kept inside of the confines of this pan. And so that mushroom stock, all those proteins, they could easily burn once we do evaporate the liquid. So we do have to be really, really careful with it all, okay? But guys, it's getting there. And that has already been 12 minutes of cooking. This takes time. We need people to be patient. Can I please get a yes, chef? Please, and thank you. And so once all the water is gone, we'll add in the oil, we'll add in the broccoli rabe, and then we will properly cook her down. Sure thing, Ahmed. I'd be happy to do so. Okay. Oh, guys, that risotto, that stuff is beautiful. It is genuinely so gorgeous. It's cheesy, it's creamy. It's gonna have the mozzarella running through it as well. So, Trash Can Come On, I never really got a chance to, never really got that much of a chance to play with lion's mane, just because it's usually really expensive in my area. But I would love to someday. And it's going in, it's cooking down. Also, guys, once again, if you would like to support the show, I want to keep this information free for everybody to watch. If you'd like to help financially support this, my goal is to be able to do this full time one day. Please support me on Patreon. You can type in ! Patreon. Any and all support that would be really, really appreciated. You can also scroll down. You can go into the About section because my goal, again, is just to be able to do this full time one day. Okay? So we're cooking up my mushrooms, guys. The water is evaporating slowly but surely. You can just see it cooling all up. The pan is slowly getting dry. It is getting there. You just need to be patient. You just need to be patient and it will all come together exactly the way that it needs to. And we'll finish it with the fresh cilantro. We'll finish it with the fresh basil. But yeah, any and all support on Patreon would be amazing. This is looking good. Kaze, I'm glad. But you haven't seen the risotto, right? Because you just got here. The risotto has about 15 more minutes in the oven, and then it's going to come out, and it's going to be beautiful. That's the part I'm really excited about. I can't wait either. So guys, we're almost done with the boiling stage. We're almost done. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay? And we're just going to stir it around again. The water is slowly but surely evaporating, everybody. It's almost there. And now we have these mushrooms, guys, that have all of the liquid that they need. They will no longer absorb the oil once we actually put it on. So we're almost done. The water is foaming up. We do want to make sure that we're a little bit diligent at this stage in terms of actually stirring the mushrooms and specifically scraping up the sides. If you do not do this, all of the dissolved proteins in the stock will essentially develop into fond, and it will start burning on the bottom of the pan. Is that clear? Does everybody understand why we're doing this? So it's almost there, everybody. It's almost there. It's getting there. It's getting there. A little bit more time. It's foaming up. It's becoming almost viscous on the bottom, and it's going to be delicious. I'm just checking on my risotto with my oven light. Looking good. Awesome. I'm really excited about the risotto, guys. That's going to be the best part of today. And we're going to finish this with a bunch of fresh herbs. Oh, guys, these mushrooms, they are going to be lovely. So simple, so delicious. We're just boiling them to death, and then they will be sauteed. It's getting really foamy now. The water is getting really viscous. That's all of the different proteins, my friends, all the different proteins dissolved inside of it. The pan is almost dry. You need to pay attention with your ears. You need to pay attention with your smell. Okay? If it starts to hear like a psst sound, the drier it sounds, the higher end it sounds, the less water that there actually is. Once that happens, we need oil in there ASAP. We need to scrape off all of this mushroom juice from the sides, get it back down into the mushrooms, and make sure it's all just coating the mushrooms, my friends, and not just scorching on the sides of the pan. Okay? It's getting there. It's getting there slowly but surely. Again, I'm just scraping it up. I'm scraping it up and I'm pushing it back in towards the mushrooms, guys. I'm scraping it back in towards the mushrooms because I don't want any of that juice. I don't want any of it to burn. Okay? It's almost there. It's still foaming up. Okay? So we're stirring it really, really often at this stage. Because again, none of these little dissolved proteins, none of this fond, we do not want it to burn. We just want it to stick back to the mushrooms. We're distributing it back inside of the mushrooms. Or rather on top of them. Okay? Stick to the mushrooms and not the pan. Guys, the pan is almost dry. Take a look at it. Take a look. That's exactly what it needs to look like. Okay? And so now that we are officially at this stage in the cooking process, we turn our heat down to a medium. Immediately, you hear that sizzle beginning to happen once again. The water, my friends, has now been officially reduced. The mushrooms are now in effectively a dry pan. We now go in with a generous amount of olive oil because it is time for us to saute the mushrooms, guys. It is time for us to saute them. No more boiling. Now we get a beautiful sauteed mushroom. This is where the magic happens. And you can see it's not soaking up the oil at all, guys. And now, once we hear that good sizzle, we add in the broccoli rabe, but first, we'll add in a generous amount of salt. Make sure that my mushrooms are nicely seasoned. Some salt goes in. Okay, and let's stir it up. Let's stir it up, let's stir it up. Because we don't want bland mushrooms, everybody. We're stirring it, and we're cooking it, and we're cooking it. Okay? And look at those mushrooms, my friends. Look at it now. That is what I'm talking about. And now goes in all of my lovely broccoli rabe as well, because this is broccoli rabe and mushrooms all together. And we gotta season this broccoli rabe, guys. We've also gotta hit this with a bunch of kosher salt. And now it is time for these two bad boys to saute together in unison for the remaining time that we have together. Let's take it. Okay, this pan's a little too full for us to properly toss everything, but that's okay. So we'll just break it all up. And we might need a little bit more oil, and that's okay too. The broccoli rabe, because it has so much texture, it almost does tend to soak up the oil in all of its little crevices. But that is okay, because it's all just going to be flavorful and delicious at the end of the day anyways. So the broccoli rabe had its own moisture. That's okay, guys. Don't worry about it. It will do its thing shortly. Nice medium high heat, everybody. So why is it called kosher salt? Jack, good question. It's because kosher salt was traditionally used for a process of preservation called koshering. So I don't believe it has any like Judeo-Christianic or like Jewish like ties. Just that process specifically was called koshering. Okay, a little bit more salt, and we'll also get a little bit more olive oil inside, guys. And let us continue the glorious sautéing process. The pan is a little wet, again, from the broccoli rabe. It's okay. It's all going to sort out in just a little bit. The broccoli rabe is going to essentially, come back. The broccoli rabe is going to dry out. We're going to cook out the moisture that came with it. And it's going to get sautéing shortly. So delicious. Oh, that's good. Even at this stage, even when things are barely sautéed, guys, it's delicious. I'm really excited to eat all of this. Just my pan is really, really wet again. That happens. Happens to the best of us. So guys, we are in the final stages of the cooking process. My risotto is almost done cooking. It needs about 9 more minutes. My broccoli rabe and my mushrooms, they're now beautifully cooking down. We're evaporating the liquid from the broccoli rabe simultaneously. And we're going to get all of this nice and golden brown and nice and sauteed. I should have probably done a better job of drying off my broccoli rabe before it went on, but that's okay. Is everybody still watching? Is everybody still listening? I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef. Oh, excuse me. We're in the final cooking process, guys. We're in the final stages of it all. This is where the magic happens. Oh, that risotto, guys, it is going to be out of this world. That's the part I am most excited for. The broccoli rabe and the mushrooms, it's going to be plenty delicious. But the risotto, That's where it's at. So we're just cooking out the moisture. It's gonna take a little bit of time. I slightly overcrowded the pan. That's okay. Guys, that broccoli rabe, one of my favorite vegetables as of late. Awesome. And just throw that into the dishwasher. And it is going. It's going, it's happening, it's doing its thing. Beautiful. So good. Okay, the last thing I do want to do really quickly, because I still have a pressure cooker full of my homemade chicken stock, I do want to just transfer my stock to a separate vessel really quickly. Okay, because I have all of that lovely chicken stock. I'm going to go ahead and get a little strainer out and a little container for the rest of it. And I'm just going to throw that bad boy into the fridge. Here's my container. Here is my strainer. Okay? And hopefully it doesn't slide as I try to get this all inside. That was way too many accidental rhymes for me to be comfortable. So, Jack, unfortunately, your question is a little too vague at the moment because I don't know what kind of vegetables. I don't have a lot of history with your cousin, right? I don't know exactly what you mean by your cousin hates veggies, right? So, it's like your question is a little too broad for me at the moment. It's a little too general. Well, almost all, again, it's still, I have to know a lot about somebody to really know the relationship with something and why they don't eat it. Okay? I don't know what it is about the vegetables that he doesn't actually like. So, it's very difficult for me to give you any advice on the subject matter. Beautiful. My mushrooms, my broccoli rabe, all of it looking really good at the moment. So yeah, Jack, I'm afraid I won't be able to help you with what you just gave me. Won't be able to help out your cousin here. I apologize. Okay. But yeah, in order to first help somebody like that, you first have to find out what he does not like about other things. So there you go. That is my lovely homemade chicken stock. I'm going to just throw that into the fridge. Get that ready for the next time that I want to use it. Awesome. And I'm going to throw these things into the dishwasher as well. Guys, we're in the final stretch. Again, a really good time to ask me any and all questions. So yeah, I guess that is like a first good piece of advice, which is how can you blend something into a sauce, right? Blend something into a sauce and then you season it really aggressively so that you're able to effectively mask it. That's like the first level of trying to get somebody to quote unquote eat their veggies. Ah, beautiful. Broccoli rabe, my mushrooms. Excellent. He can still taste it? Well, Jack, sounds like you gotta mask it even more. Whew. So that's going. Everything is nice and seasoned. Everything looks really good. I'm just gonna go ahead and take a quick little second to wash off my knife. And just get that ready for later on. So when I do have to inevitably put it away. Okay, that's all washed up. That's all scrubbed up. Oof. There you go. That's a good, proper sizzle. Everything is now properly sauteing once more. Just again, tossing it around to make sure it all cooks up evenly. And guys, that broccoli rabe, it absorbed so much of that flavor from the mushrooms as we cooked it down, as we boiled it down. It is looking incredible. Guys, the risotto in the oven, it looks spectacular. That I am incredibly excited for as well. We have about 2 more minutes, everybody. We have about 3 more minutes, and then everything comes out and everything gets done. So at this stage of the broccoli rabe and the mushrooms, I'm going to add in my lovely garlic, because we're almost done with the process. So we add in the garlic last. We let it infuse. We don't want to scorch the garlic or anything. There you go. And we'll give it a little toss, just to make sure that it's all evenly incorporated. All the way throughout. So good. Now it's nice and garlicky, it's nice and flavorful, and I'm stirring it often again because I don't want to have my garlic scorch at all. Okay, we just want to fry the garlic, we just want to infuse it into everything else. Get it all nice and flavorful. And then finally, let's go ahead and shut these vegetables off the heat in just a second. We just want to let them fry while they still have a second of time. And last but not least, everybody, I kill the heat, and we're going to finish it with a bunch of fresh cilantro right on top. I just want to use up my leftover cilantro. So let's get it all inside and just mix it up. Get it nice and fresh and bright and aromatic and herbaceous. And that, guys, is it. That is my delicious mushrooms and my broccoli rabe all together in harmony, in unison. And about to come out is going to be the risotto, guys. So this is all ready to go. I'm going to just make a little bit of space for us. Set that aside, set that behind me, put that into the past. Everybody, it is time for the great reveal. Is everybody ready? I want to hear a nice resounding yes, chef, from everybody watching. This is the one, everybody. This is the reveal. This is the moment we've been waiting for. This is going to be the final product of what we want today. So much effort, so much love, a homemade chicken stock, a homemade risotto, and I need a yes, chef, from absolutely every last person here. Every single one. All of you. Everybody lurking, everybody watching, even if you've never spoken here before. This is your time to shine. Let me go ahead and inspect that. Okay, I think that looks good. All right, guys, let's go ahead and pull it out. Now it's gonna be the time. Okay, and that, I think, looks quite good at the moment. Bubbling, delicious, beautiful. With the cream, with the mozzarella inside. Look at it. Look at her. And now, let's go in with a little spoon of any sort. Ooh, ho, 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 ho. And let's go ahead and get this into a lovely plate, my friends. She is a beauty. Cheesy, full of mozzarella, full of cream. Stretchy, cheesy, delicious. That's what I'm talking about. And I want a generous portion for myself. I know it's rich, I know it's filled with cheese, but I want a nice, big, 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 beautiful portion. That's what I'm talking about. Whew. Bubbling, full of mozzarella. Ooh, excuse me, something got caught in my throat. And last but not least, let's get a little bit of some fresh basil, just scattered directly on top, just for a little bit of herbaceousness. Okay, and then to go alongside it, a little teeny tiny dish of all of my greens as well, to be eaten separately, but to be enjoyed all the same. Everybody? So I know it might not look that appealing. It does look fancy pants, I'd really prefer if you did not say that. That's kind of obnoxious. Thank you. Everybody, we have done it. My delicious, crispy, baked risotto. We made a homemade chicken stock. We stuffed it full of mozzarella, done with red wine and red onions. Filled it with Parmesan, added in some heavy cream. Nice and viscous and cheesy. Let it all bake together. Crispy panko breadcrumb topping with Parmesan cheese. Cheers. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Oh. That is so special. Guys, this is special. This is so good. That is so good. That is crispy, and that's cheesy, and it's melting and flavorful. This could make a meal for 4 to 6 people. I think maybe a little bit more than that. It's so rich. This is not something that you want to eat a lot of, or maybe just do if you're feeling up to it. It's crispy on top. That is beautiful, especially if you let it cool down a little bit. But every now and then you get a lovely pocket of mozzarella cheese. Yep, that's amazing. I don't know what else to say about that. And then guys, I have these lovely greens and mushrooms, my lovely broccoli rabe. That is gorgeous. So flavorful, so much oomph. So meaty from the mushrooms too. Wow. Oh, back to this. Guys, this is so good. This is incredible. It is so crispy. Yeah, that's dangerous. That is something that you can easily eat a lot of. This is so good. This is one of the best things I've made in a long time. Wow. Back to this for a little second. And that's it. We're done. Everybody, thank you so much for watching today. Thank you all so much for being here. Everybody, next stream is going to be this Sunday, 5 p.m. EDT. Thank you all for watching. This was a bit of a journey. This was a bit of a long one today as well. I appreciate every single last one of you. Thank you all. I hope you all have a really good night. Once again, please check out my Patreon, !Patreon, if you'd like to support the cooking show. My goal is to continue to teach people how to cook, how to teach people cook at home. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for stopping by this Sunday, every Wednesday, every Friday, every Sunday, 5 p.m. EDT. We do have a bit of a modified schedule next week. Join my Discord if you'd like to be updated on all of the schedule changes and whatnot, because I'll be a little out of town next week. But this Sunday, 5 p.m. EDT. Thank you all for being here. And also follow the backup channel. That's right. Follow, you could type in !backup. It's Daramgar TV, @Daramgar TV. Okay. That would go a really long way because this account, there's some stuff going on here. Also, Coffee, thank you so much for stopping by, but we're already out of here. So, good night, everybody. See you. Be well. Have a really safe, have a fun Friday night. And I will see you all in just a few days' time. This Sunday, 2 days' time, 5 p.m. EDT. Till then, be well.